Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Miller Talk podcast. I'm your host, Austin, and today we will be continuing from the previous episode with Chris from the JBU show. You can find him on X at JBU underscore show and at militia underscore project. And we're going to get back into the topic of the previous episode. We were talking about this Epstein, really, in general, and the whole thing going on with Trump. I have found some tweets recently, today, really, but that I kind of want to read off. But would you like to say hi, Chris?
How's it going?
So I've got a tweet from Bill Mitchell, and he says, I have a plan for MAGA. Just support Trump. You don't stop blocking for your starting quarterback because he threw a pick. You block harder and give him time to throw. Every time you attack Trump, you help Democrats. Do I need to remind you who the enemy is?
I mean, that's basically where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to I'm never going to ignore something Trump does wrong. But
Yeah.
this isn't a case, in my opinion, of him doing something wrong necessarily. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
to be fair, he's he should have made much more clear statements about this.
Yeah.
They made some very specific statements during the campaign and stuff. Matter of fact, I have a tweet right here from Donald Trump Jr. that says, "Show us all the Epstein client list now. Why would anyone protect those scumbags? Ask yourself this question daily, and the answer becomes very apparent." And then there's another one from Donald Trump. Oh, that's just the recent one from Donald Trump that says,
Uh,
"Stop talking about it." So because they campaigned so hard on it, I don't think Donald Trump needs to just come out and say exactly what I think he was trying to say in his long tweet about it that we kind of went through. you know, we read between the lines on that, but I think what he needs to do is just come out and say that so that there's no ambiguity. So I do
mm-hmm.
think that that is a mistake that he's making, and I do
Yeah.
think that that should be called out. But I don't think what he's doing is covering up anything that he's actually done, for example,
Mm-hmm.
nor is he trying to protect anybody that's in those files.
Yes.
For whatever reason, I don't know. Why, on one hand, why not release them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're in it or not in it, I think you and I agree. If he's in it, it's because it's falsified information.
Yeah.
I-
It's
and I
falsified or
believe that.
just like unimportant.
Right, right. And I believe that it's either falsified or unimportant if that's the
Mm-hmm.
case because of, well, just too much to get into, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of evidence that suggests that. Um, so in that case, on one hand, it's like just release it either way, and
Mm-hmm.
if it does point to you because they falsified information, then say that, but still let us see it because I don't know, it's tough because it's not as if, like I said, it's not that I don't want to go back and prosecute everybody that did something, but we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about files that are between 10 and 15 years old now that have had who knows how many hands on them. They've been in the FBI's hands the whole time, and we all know the FBI above board all the way.
Yeah.
But aside from that, the files are 15 years old. They've passed through many hands, and the crimes that are alleged in the files are another 20 years older than that. I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to do anything about it. We're
Yeah.
not. I wish we could. I want people to be held accountable, but I also know that it's not going to happen. And as I pointed out on the last episode, you know, somebody took that information and is still using it. There's no way,
Mm-hmm.
there's no way that nobody picked up at least some of Epstein's blackmail and didn't start using it themselves. I'm more concerned about that. I'm more concerned about what is still going on. And I don't want to say accept the fact that we can't go back and prosecute the people, but we really can't.
Yeah.
There's no way to prove what's in the files now is what's supposed to be in the files. Do you trust the Obama administration? Do you trust the Biden administration? If you're on the left, do you trust the first Trump administration? Do you trust the FBI, the DOJ? the attorney general, all of those people through all of those administrations, through all of this time, all of the different people whose hands that's changed through, etc. Do you trust none of them to have either taken stuff out or put stuff into the files? I don't.
Yeah, I don't either.
And the question of why the Democrats didn't release it, there's no question that if Trump was in it,
Mm-hmm.
they would have released it, even
Trump,
if it hurt some of their people.
yeah. I mean, if it would have taken down like a good majority of their people, they probably
They
would
would at
still
least put
take
out the
down
part
Trump
that
because Trump
they
is
would probably
Hitler.
at least put out the part about Trump. Yeah.
They say over and over and over again, like, oh, if I can see like how the Nazis brainwashed all those people, and say things like, oh, if you had a chance to take down Hitler, wouldn't you do anything you could? Like,
It's so cute
yeah.
watching the left act like they have credibility on these last few days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of
Zero
the
in.
big things is just how hard the left is diving in on this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they've been waiting for it.
Yeah, after not saying a word about, I mean, they literally have not even acknowledged these files as far
Yep.
as anybody in power this entire
Mm-hmm.
time because they know better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there
Like,
was some releases in 2019. So you could have been
oh,
going through this stuff and trying to figure it out if there was actually something worth getting after Trump with.
yeah, those were the flight logs that were
Mm-hmm.
somewhat redacted, I think, and then the black book that was somewhat redacted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he wasn't in there. He was in the black book, I think, but so were a lot of people, and you can't implicate everybody that was in the black book. The man, his whole mission from whoever gave it to him, whether it was himself, his dad, or, you know, the IDF or the CIA or whoever it was, his mission was to target rich and powerful people. He associated with many. That does not mean that every single one that he associated with is guilty of something bad.
Yeah.
Now, the ones that went to the island, probably so. But Donald Trump is a good example because, there's tons of pictures and stuff of him with Donald Trump, but they're always in public places
Mm-hmm.
with other people. It's always, parties that a bunch of people were at and not on the island for that matter. And, dance galas or whatever they call them, big fundraising events, things like that. It's never, Epstein hanging out at Trump's house or Trump
Yeah.
hanging out at Epstein's house.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that makes sense because Donald Trump was a huge power player in the 90s. I mean, he's pretty much always been a huge power player
Yeah.
since he's been on the scene. But in the 90s especially, he was a huge power player. Of course, Epstein would have been trying to target him.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to explain why if they're so buddy-buddy and Epstein has dirt on him. Now, Epstein's dead at this point, but the rest of this time, if Epstein had dirt on him, and Trump had gone to the island and all these things, that would mean that Trump was a pedophile, right?
Yeah.
That's the implication. Why did Trump toss him out of the golf club or wherever? It wasn't Mar-a-Lago, I don't think, but I think it was his country club or golf club in New York.
Yeah, I
Why
thought
did
it
he
was
toss?
Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, maybe it was. I don't know. I should have looked it up, but why did he toss him out for being inappropriate with a waitress? That would be par for the course
Mm-hmm.
if Donald Trump was a pedophile. It doesn't make any sense. That was what ended their relationship. There is no, as far as I've seen, and I've challenged people on this, there is no proof of contact between them after that point in time at all.
Yeah.
Why 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 would that innocuous thing be enough if Trump was involved with what Epstein was involved with. It doesn't make sense. And that is why, if the files do point to Trump, I don't believe I don't believe it. In
Yeah.
if there's photos or there's video, which even that, with AI, I don't know that it's enough anymore for anybody, not just Trump, anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, because even if he's in there, it's faked or it's just completely irrelevant information, just like more pictures of him at parties where there's lots of people, then the left is just going to use that forever and ever, and we'll never stop hearing about it. Trump was in the Epstein files, just like, oh, Trump's a rapist, or Trump's got 37 felonies, whatever the heck,
34.
34. We'll never stop hearing about it. So what?
Well, and I think they want it this way anyway. They would prefer Trump doesn't release anything because
Mm-hmm.
when it's a mystery, that's what the left does best is theorize.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple problems here. First, I want to put this on the record. I don't condemn Bill Clinton or anybody else. I can't think of anybody else offhand on the left that's in those files. I know there's several. Um, because of being in Epstein's black book or having pictures with Epstein. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
There's some people that I do think there is a good likelihood that they were doing bad things with Epstein, but I still would not put them in jail for it because the evidence isn't there. I mean,
Yeah.
it supposedly exists, but we haven't seen it. And therefore, and like I just said, with Donald Trump, you can fake video, you can fake photos.
Mm-hmm.
There's just been too much time elapsed. Had this stuff immediately been leaked when the island was raided and Epstein was arrested, there could be some credibility to it and we could actually get some accountability.
Yeah.
But that's not what happened. What happened was the same people that we know are corrupt on all these other things sat on these files for 10 plus years. They're no good anymore.
Yeah.
And the other thing is conservatives need to um, not necessarily conservatives, but Trump supporters, MAGA, just Republicans in general, need to do a little bit of soul searching, I guess,
Yeah.
because and everybody's guilty of it at times, especially lately with trust being at an all-time low between institutions and the media and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows who to trust anymore, and that's why credibility is the number one currency you can have today. But it's so easy to let your mind run wild on conspiracies. I mean, in a sense, we're doing it right now by speculating why Trump doesn't want to release them now. But it's really easy to fill in gaps with conspiracy, but that does not always mean that there is conspiracy there.
Yeah.
Maybe there simply is nothing in the files that the FBI has. Maybe they long since destroyed everything that was actually, verifiable evidence, and the only thing left is a bunch of names on paper with no evidence proving anything. Just a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
baseless allegations, basically,
Yeah.
which is what Trump is claiming. Maybe it really is just that simple. I don't know.
Yeah. It's something like that. And I kind of think another reason why to not release the files is to not like reopen the wound for all the victims. Because at this point, like, no justice can come. And like you've said before, um, there's probably not much in there that's really going to incriminate many people because it's probably been scrubbed or cleaned, cut, whatever.
Mm.
So really,
Yeah,
all it's going to be is just victims and probably their accounts, which is just going to reopen that wound.
I'm sure the evidence did exist, but for
Mm-hmm.
how long after Epstein went down? Probably not very.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I'm not a victim of Epstein, so I can't say whether or not,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it would be better or worse.
That's who I'd like to
Um,
hear from about this. Is like
but
the
yeah, that
victims. That's someone you
that
should trust.
well, I'll trust them about how they feel about it, but
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
still I'm still hesitant. You know, people make false accusations too, and
Mm-hmm.
for every real Epstein victim, of which I believe there are, you know, a long, long list. Okay, I'm not suggesting by any means that this is all conspiracy. What I'm saying is, for every real Epstein victim, I'm willing to bet there's a false accuser too, just looking to get some
Yeah.
money out of his estate or from some other powerful person or whatever. Because that's just, unfortunately, the world we live in currently.
Yeah. So I'm gonna move on to the next tweet that I found. This is from Kentucky Girl. She says, I get Trump's frustration. He's done so many amazing things since he took office on January 20th. And instead of rallying behind him, building momentum for the midterms, and supporting the MAGA agenda, we have allowed the conversation to be usurped. We have become obsessed with a list that may not exist about crimes for which there may be no evidence related to victims who settled out of court and signed NDAs with one criminal who is dead and another who is in prison. All because we think there is some mass conspiracy. We don't have proof, we just think we know. And nothing that anyone says will change the minds of some people who, for no reason at all, think they know the mysterious truth. Let's concentrate on the thousands and thousands of children lost during the Biden administration that the Trump administration has found, and the tens of thousands he is preventing from becoming victims by shutting down our southern border. Let go of the conspiracy, embrace the victories. That kind of sums up what we were talking about already.
Yeah, I think so. Um, I understand the want for justice. The problem is the way our legal system works, and I like the way our legal system works. Don't get me wrong; it's got
Mm-hmm.
problems the way it currently
Yeah.
stands. But as far as the basis of innocent until proven guilty, there's just no way to prove guilt anymore. It's too far removed from it. The files have been in corrupt hands for more than 10 years. The allegations in those files go back well past 10 years.
Yeah.
It's too much. And so, the general sentiment of that tweet is right. There's far more things to work on now,
Mm-hmm.
far more important things that will actually have far more benefit. And look, all these people are corrupt anyway. There's things that they're currently doing that we
Yeah.
can take them down on,
Mm-hmm.
trying to take them down on something that is basically an easy win for any dollar store attorney to prove, to get them out of, because of all of the questions about whose hands the files have gone through and how old the accusations are and stuff. They would probably wiggle their way out of this anyway. So what good does the public accusation make? It, I don't know.
Yeah.
I keep stopping myself because at the same time, like, I don't want to just say let it go, but
Yeah.
I don't think we have any other choice. I just don't see how we do. And I don't care about Trump's wins as far as this is concerned. The amount of wins doesn't negate doing, I can still criticize him for doing wrong on something,
Yeah.
even if I believe he's overall done better. Um, but I just, no matter how this plays out, whether he releases them, whether he doesn't release them, whether he's in them, whether he's not in them, whether it's all fake, whether it's all real, at this point now, because of the way that the MAGA movement has played this, the Trump supporters have played this, it's only going to benefit the Democrats. Even if it takes half of them down, it's still only going to
Mm-hmm.
benefit the Democrats.
Yep.
I think the better solution here is, you know, we know that a good number of people in our government were involved.
Yep.
We don't know how many, we don't know who exactly. But we do know that virtually all of them at the top levels, at least, obviously, I'm not talking about every person that has a government job necessarily, but the
Mm-hmm.
people at the top levels, um, you know, we do know that all of them are guilty of something pretty much.
Yeah.
If nothing else, lying. Just fire everybody. And that can be our justice as far as this goes and move on.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are going to die long before they would ever see the inside of a jail cell anyway. Let's just get rid of them.
Yeah.
I don't know. That seems like the only viable solution to me anyway.
Uh-huh.
What I don't know.
Yeah, I think another one of the things that people like really are wanting these files released for is to find out if he actually killed himself, because that's been, the meme that's been going on since it happened. And so people want to know, but like we've already said, like there's probably not going to be anything in there worth a crap. And two, even if there was, they definitely didn't leave that part in, write it in there like
Mhm.
he killed himself. Like, it's just going to kind of be one of those things that we never really know. There's pretty good evidence that he did, and that's about as good as it's probably going to get.
Yeah, the video on that is a good example. Look, Epstein didn't kill himself. That's pretty obvious. We all recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
And it would help if Donald Trump says the same thing. Obviously, he didn't kill himself. And to be fair, I should probably reword that because he very well might have killed himself, but he might not have been given any other option, too.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
the point is, he didn't kill himself of his own free will.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and so it would help if Trump and Kash Patel and Bondi and whoever else would at least say that they believe that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, we can't prove it. So, it, what does it matter? We can't prove it. We know the evidence is gone because they released the video that they had of the cell block where Jeffrey Epstein was, and there's a minute missing, and there's no
Yeah.
explanation for why the minute is missing.
Mm. Yep.
And I don't believe Trump is the person that cut that minute out.
No.
Have you seen, have you seen the AI altered version of that where it shows Hillary Clinton in a I think it's Hillary Clinton in a Bill Clinton mask walking into the cell block.
I haven't even seen the actual released video. Hasn't come my way. I haven't gone looking for it either.
Yeah, I don't remember how I came across it, but I saw that first and that grabbed.
Yeah. Um,
Well, and the other thing is too, relevant to what she said is if they released everything today, exactly what they have, nothing more, nothing less, these people aren't going to believe it anyway.
mm-hmm.
They're going to believe that something's missing, something wasn't included, something.
Yep.
Just like with the JFK files.
Mm-hmm.
According to Trump, he released everything that they had left on JFK. I believe. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I believe that's what the implication was. And there was nothing there.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody that was looking for an answer that didn't get an answer doesn't believe that's it. And it's probably not it, but just like I said yesterday, why would they ever collect incriminating evidence on themselves in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
It makes no sense. You're literally going to the accused, which would be the US government, for information about the bad things they did and expecting them to incriminate themselves.
Yep. Breaking news. They're always the good guy somehow.
Funny how that works.
Every time.
Well, let's put that into context real quick with a modern event. The
Mm-hmm.
kid that shot at Donald Trump.
Yeah.
We know a U.S. agency, we don't know which one necessarily, probably the FBI, went to his house and scrubbed the house. They took the silverware, anything with fingerprints, they wiped it down. We know for a fact that that happened.
Yep.
Do you think they documented the fact that they did that? Do you
Mm.
think there's a file that says, you know, James, Agent James and Agent Keefe over here went to so and so's house and scrubbed it down to make sure they couldn't be connected back to us? Of course not.
Yeah. Not happening. Yeah, that situation was weird too. It was they scrubbed his
Yeah,
house. They had like they proved that either FBI or CIA agent their phone had pinged at that house multiple times leading up to there. And then they cremated him. And I can't remember, but I feel like they actually didn't even do an autopsy or anything, which may not be important, but
yeah, it was like dumping JFK's body out of the back of an airplane in the middle of the ocean.
mm-hmm.
Bin,
Yeah,
Bin Laden? I think they did that to Bin Laden too. Maybe I'm conflating the two.
yeah, they definitely did it to Bin Laden. Uh, yeah, with JFK, I like to think that his head just did that.
Just exploded out of
Yeah,
nowhere.
it wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald. It wasn't the grassy knoll shooter or something else. His head just did that. That's probably what happened with Trump too. His ear just did that.
They probably opened the book full of secrets. Their mind exploded.
Yeah. Oh, that'd have to be another time, JFK. But uh, I guess I can read this last tweet. It's from David Leatherwood. This one's shorter. If the Epstein mess is enough to make you completely turn on the president after everything else he's done for this country, you're a snowflake.
Mm, yeah, kind of. I mean, I don't know. I don't. I do my best not to use those kind of
Mm-hmm.
insults. It's hard not to sometimes, but it it is a little, it's reductive and stuff, and that's the point. But yeah, I mean, how much loyalty do you have if
Mm-hmm.
the first thing or the second thing in this case that you don't agree with, you're just out,
Yeah.
and not just out, but siding with the people that
That did
I don't want to
everything.
say because you know the Democrat politicians, I would say, are the political enemy. The Democrat people are not,
Yeah.
but it's just we can
Yeah.
criticize Trump for not being straightforward about this,
Mm-hmm.
but to abandon him because of it and to act like everything else doesn't matter and that he's part. I mean, I've seen people saying he's part of the deep state now. Like, really?
Really? Come
They've
on.
gone after him so hard this whole time because he was just going to cave in the end anyway? Come on.
Mm.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, if he caved in, they wouldn't just let him keep running as president. They'd definitely get some fake impeachment trial going. But maybe not. But yeah, it's really just like, come on, guys. You've made it this far. You may be a longtime Trump supporter, or maybe you just came here in the last election. But either way, you've made it this far, and this is just gonna break you. You've listened to all this propaganda, been blasted by it for years now, and realized everything that they say is a lie. But this one, they're telling the truth. This one, really?
I think that um, we get too hyper focused.
Mm-hmm.
I think just Americans in general, and the news. cycle and all of that is designed to get us to do this. That's
Yeah.
exactly what politicians want, is us to get
Mm-hmm.
hyper focused on individual things. And that's exactly, oh, I gotta see that. Sorry, I'll come back to that in a second. But that's exactly what anybody that is suddenly anti-Trump, that was 100% for Trump before this, or before Iran at least, um, that's exactly what they're doing. They're not looking at the broader context, not looking at the fact that they went so far as to try to kill the man because he was so much not a part of them. And now you're assuming that he's just caved after all of that into being a part of the swamp. It makes no sense. I do think that he needs to get rid of Cash Patel, and I do think that he needs to get rid of Pam Bondi, but I understand why he's loyal to them.
Yeah.
I think it's a mistake, and I'm willing to give Cash a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
leeway.
I was
So
about to say that. I'd
he's
give
on a
him more
on,
than Pam Bondi, but
but Pam Bondi, I've seen nothing out of.
mm-hmm.
To even the things that even the two minor things that I can point to that are a win with her, which was dropping the FRT lawsuit,
Yeah.
and I forget what the other one was, but it was also 2A related.
Yeah, but she didn't even do a
Even
good
those,
job on that FRT.
no, it was garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, she made the company agree to all kinds of stuff that they had no business agreeing to. That they would
Mm-hmm.
have won the lawsuit had it continued anyway.
Yep.
And it's good that they dropped it, because they shouldn't have to spend all that money to win the lawsuit, nor should everybody who owns one be a felon until they win the lawsuit. But even the wins are mediocre at best.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand, you know, I don't understand her, but I
Yeah.
do understand Trump's loyalty to the people that are loyal to him. I do get that.
Yeah, Cash Patel's been doing some pretty all right stuff. Like the murder rate is dropping. I don't know how exactly it's linked to him, but
Well, and the FBI has been a corrupt institution. Literally, it was created as a corrupt institution.
mm-hmm.
Literally. Um, Teddy Roosevelt and what's his name, the original director that ran it for 50 years. God dang it, whatever his name is. They conspired together to create an organization to condense power in the federal government by pretty much running an Epstein type blackmail operation, although maybe not with pedophilia,
Mm-hmm.
on everybody in government so that they could get their way. That's what the FBI was from the inception. So, that being the case, I'm willing to give Cash Patel time,
Yeah.
because
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of little changes that have to be made that will add up to one major change,
Yeah.
from the way I see it, at least. And so I understand that we're not going to see that progress until basically it's all done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like this whole we're gonna build a whole new headquarters and stuff. Like, on one hand, I understand it, because I mean, who
Oh yeah.
knows what kind of dirty tricks and secrets have been installed in that building by uh, Democrat appointed heads of the FBI this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that Cash Patel says could be on wire for all he knows.
Yeah.
But so I understand it from that aspect. But you said you were going to gut the organization from day one, not restructure it and make it
Yeah.
stronger. You know,
When he was on Rogan's podcast, he said it was like the building is in awful condition. It's not been maintained. And all this, he had a lot of good reasons. And I was like, okay, I get it. I can't remember every single one of them. That was the big one. He said it's just like an awful condition and it would cost more to like get it back to a good condition than getting a new building. So,
yeah, and I can see that, but frankly, I'm not concerned about them being in a good building. I'm concerned about them not being a
mm-hmm.
corrupt organization anymore
Yeah.
that works against the American people instead of for them. I think you should, you know, build the new building once you fix the FBI. Then
Mm-hmm.
I'll be all for it. And on the other hand, too, I'm kind of on the side of I don't know that you can fix the FBI. I'd rather just see it
Yeah.
go away. So
Mm-hmm.
certainly, I would like to see it shrink considerably.
Yeah.
Um, but that's a whole nother rabbit hole. I think the last thing on Trump, as far as this Epstein thing, I think he needs to be a little more straight about it. I think that he needs to get rid of Pam Bondi, but it's also important to remember that the president doesn't have all that much power.
Yeah.
He has a ton of power. Don't get me wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, he's not God and he's not king.
Yeah.
He he's still limited by things.
Mm-hmm.
And to all the leftists that were losing their head, oh, he just ignores the courts and all of this stuff. If that's the case, then why did he wait for the Supreme Court to do all of the things he was trying to do? He tried to do them. Then lower courts put injunctions in that the Supreme Court said were irresponsible and they stopped short of saying unconstitutional, but they basically told him to knock it off and to remember remember the scope of their powers.
Yeah.
Uh, so even though these were, by all accounts, illegitimate decisions, the Trump administration still adhered to them until the Supreme
Mm-hmm.
Court overturned them. So it,
Yeah.
I don't know. It comes back to it does not matter what's released. It's never going to be enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The thing with Trump is he really seems to play it by the book, and he doesn't really, because he's like we've said, he is constantly being watched, and everyone is giving their opinion on everything that happens, left and right. So he's doing everything right because these guys would know if he didn't wipe his butt this morning. It,
Mm.
so he has to be doing the right things, and to just not even give him an inkling of trust after everything, it's really weird.
Were you going to mention this Wall Street Journal
Yeah, I hadn't
thing?
gotten there, but
Oh,
I didn't
sorry
even
for.
have it pulled up yet.
I was just looking at that because I noticed Epstein's 50th was trending, and I didn't understand what that was about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw it from one of those big Democrat influencers, like Dan Withers or something. His freaking name.
Uh, I have one from Colin Rugg here, who I don't trust with much of anything, but he's
Mm-hmm.
just reporting on what Wall Street Journal said. So it, I don't know. Looking at it, it's pretty silly.
Yeah, so Trump said the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch personally were warned directly by President Donald J. Trump that the supposed letter they printed by President Trump to Epstein was fake, and if they print it, they will be sued. And there's a lot more in there, but yeah, basically the Wall Street Journal said they had uncovered from one of the previous Epstein file releases that Trump sent Epstein a letter on Epstein's birthday with a picture of a naked woman, and then it said something. I don't remember.
Yeah,
But,
I got it right here on Wall Street Journal's blocked, and I used to have them open, but
mm-hmm.
apparently I need to fix that since my computer went down. Anyway, it says the letter bearing Trump's name, which was reviewed by the journal, is Body. Like others in the album, it contains several lines of typewritten text framed by outline of a naked woman, which appears to be hand drawn with a heavy marker. A pair
Ah.
of small arcs denotes the woman's breast, and the future president's signature is a squiggly Donald below her waist, mimicking pubic hair. The letter
Hmm.
concludes, "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." In an interview with the Journal on Tuesday evening, Trump denied writing the letter or drawing the picture. "This is not me. This is a fake thing. It's a fake Wall Street Journal story," he said. "I never wrote a picture in my life. I don't draw pictures of women," he said. "It's not my language. It's not my words." He told the Journal he was preparing to file a lawsuit if it published the article. "I'm going to sue the Wall Street Journal just like I sued everyone else," he said. Allegations that Epstein had been sexually abusing girls became public, yada yada. They got to make sure to throw that in there just to put sexual abuse of girls and Donald Trump on the same page.
Oh yeah.
Um, there's another thing here. It says it isn't clear how the letter with Trump's signature was prepared. Inside the outline of the naked woman was a typewritten note styled as an imaginary conversation between Trump and Epstein, written in third person. That's just weird. So
Yeah.
this is everything I'm about to read is in quotes and supposedly what the note says. It says voiceover. There must be more to life than having everything. Donald. Yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Jeffrey. Nor will I, since I also know what it is. Donald. We have certain things in common. Jeffrey. Jeffrey. Yes, we do, come to think of it. Donald. Enigmas never age. Do you notice that? Jeffrey. As a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you. Trump. A pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret. That might be the strangest thing I've ever read.
That 100% sounds fake.
Yeah, I mean it sounds like somebody who desperately is trying to figure out a way
Mm-hmm.
to make a note between Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein look like it points to something extremely specific without saying it exactly. Eh,
Mm-hmm.
And aside from that, these are the same people that reported on the 51 intelligence agents and all the other things that Trump mentioned in his tweet yesterday.
Yeah.
I if it comes from the mainstream media, I simply don't believe it.
Nope. Yeah, that
One of the
sounds like when you're talking to a leftist on Twitter and they hit like all the buzzwords, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
It's just like every time I see that, I'm like, wow, you did it.
there must be more to life than having everything. Donald, yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Jeffrey, nor will I, since I also know what it is.
Okay.
If they're talking about underage women and it's because they both know this, they wouldn't need to say to each other that they both know this because
Yeah.
they both know it.
Yep.
Oh man, it's just silly. This might be the least believable of all the things.
Mm-hmm.
What'll be interesting to find out, I'm curious about the signature. Supposedly his name is signed on it, right?
Yeah.
I wonder two things. It says that it's drawn in heavy marker. I know Trump likes to sign in Sharpies. That's something that he does that
Mm-hmm.
most presidents don't do. I wonder when that started. Has he always done that, or did he start that as president? Um, and two, I'll be interested to see. It's not hard to fake a signature, especially
Yeah.
these days. Super
Mm-hmm.
easy. But I wonder if that signature was lifted directly from something else, because that should be able to be proven. If they, because if they copied the signature, they likely copied it directly from one of Donald Trump's signatures. And if you can prove that it came from this specific thing, then it's clear it's a fake.
Yeah. Grok says that he only started signing documents with Sharpies in 2017.
Okay. I mean, that's not something that it's something that would be very difficult to get a firm answer on, short of asking him directly. Um, but I certainly believe it. It seems like something that he started as president because he likes his signature to be bolder on the executive orders and stuff, but who knows? Maybe he just likes the way Sharpie's write. I don't know why he
Yeah.
would, but
I
I'm
don't
very
know.
particular about my pens, so I do understand being particular about it.
Hmm.
But Sharpies are one of the worst things to write on paper with, so at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean the signature looks good. My wife's grandma, her husband, which would be her step grandpa, irrelevant, but he died and he had a thing that he got sent from Trump for some his service in the military or whatever, and it has his
Right.
signature on it. It's the only time I've seen it in person. It is very nice, so I'll say that.
Yeah, he definitely spent some time on it.
Mm-hmm.
Most presidents have nice signatures, but I caught this tweet, and it's an excellent point that neither of us have made yet. It's one I've
Mm-hmm.
made in the past, but Donald Trump is the most investigated person to ever live, probably. I certainly, I can't even think of who would even come close between the billions that have been spent from Democratic campaign and donor dollars investigating him, trying to dig up dirt for the campaigns, the congressional investigations, the legal investigations, all of these investigations of Donald Trump through all the years. There's nothing that hasn't been found yet, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that this letter just magically shows up now,
Yeah.
mm, you know, the the first time around, the first election, the best they could dig up was the the tape of him saying grab him. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
cuss on your show, but not that that's a cuss word, but I don't want to be inappropriate. Um, that was it. That was the best they could find.
Yeah.
Everything else came after he was out of office, pretty much. I guess there was a little bit that started just before he was out of office. And it was all accusations, nothing provable, just like this. This is
Mm-hmm.
a typed piece of paper, so you can't compare handwriting, that came out of nowhere. From essentially nowhere, too. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's just, why did none of the other investigations find this? The
Yeah.
billions of dollars spent.
Exactly. Yeah. People have to get that. He's the most investigated person probably ever. He and they haven't got him for anything. Not one thing yet. Everything he's done, everything he is doing. Like, come on, guys. It to completely flip sides and flip a switch just because one thing has become public. Like that's what they want. Because the midterms are coming up. After the midterms, a lot of this is going to go away until the next election. This is, you know,
Yeah, well, I mean, there is no future election for him to use it on.
yeah,
So,
yeah, but there will always be presidential elections, and they'll always want to be
oh,
in power.
the next several elections, they'll just be tying whoever it is to Donald Trump. That'll be
Mm-hmm.
what it is. And I guarantee, once Donald Trump's out for good, they'll come out. The accusations will be endless,
Oh
and
yeah.
it'll be one of those things where none of them are provable. And if you actually dig in on any of them, you see that they're ludicrous. But just by sheer magnitude, people will go with the where there's smoke, there's fire theory, which is what a lot of people go with based on everything they've done so far against him. But when
Mm-hmm.
you dig into any of these, there's nothing there. When you actually get down, when there's, with this note that we're talking about, this just was released just before we started
Yeah.
recording, I believe.
Yeah. A couple
So
hours.
there hasn't been enough time yet. But take one of, whether we go with the attempted shooting of Donald Trump or the 51 intelligence agent, if we were to dig in on any of that, there's literally nothing there that points to it being true, and there's a ton that points to it not being true. But nobody takes the time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just again, through sheer magnitude, there's a significant number of people that just stay away from it, you know?
Yeah. Yep. I I often think about what's gonna happen when he's like done being president. Like, is he? Because he's not gonna be able to like go off into the shadows like Biden has done or Obama has done, and just come up during certain things and say things on the 4th of July and whatever.
I mean, he deserves to, but
He definitely does, but he's probably gonna. This is probably just gonna be his life. But at least he won't have to worry about being elected. He can just kind of, I don't know, roll with the punches or something.
yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what he'll do when he gets out. I think he'll probably find, he'll start a new pack or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. On one hand, I kind of think that he probably won't live terribly long out of office,
Yeah.
and I mean, he's pretty old as it is, and he's in
Mm-hmm.
great health. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah.
I'm a firm believer in you know you die when you stop working kind of thing.
Yeah.
And what else is there for him to accomplish once he's out of
Mm-hmm.
office?
Exactly.
He's got a a beautiful family, all of whom are successful and decent. They're not coke addicts like Hunter.
Yeah.
I know some people say that Trump Jr. is, and maybe he is fine, but he's still extremely successful, and not just because his dad's Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it
Yeah.
helps, obviously, but he does plenty of things on his own too. There's no question that he works hard. I guess that's the way to say it. He's not partying with hookers in Russia like Biden did
Mm-hmm.
for years on end.
Yep.
Anyway, um, he's got a successful family. He's got been president, taken on the deep state. He's changed politics in America forever. All of these things. There's nothing else left for him to do. And so I think that, I don't think he's going to die the minute he is out of office, but
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be too many years um, beyond getting out because he's already at that age. And I think he'll be pretty well satisfied at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, isn't it just like weird? Like, you see Bush at the beginning of his term and at the end. You see Obama at the beginning and the end, and just how, even like Bill Clinton, how much they aged, and you can just like see it on them. But it's like with Trump, I mean, I know he wears like a lot of makeup, but really, he almost seems to be getting like healthier through his term. I feel like this, especially like, I mean, over this time, this term that he's doing, he looks a lot healthier to me. Like, definitely.
Yeah, there's no question that he's held up better than some of the previous have. And I think that's in part because lies and
Mm-hmm.
being a terrible person and knowing it, that takes a toll on you. Takes a heavy toll on you.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I kind of think that is carrying around, because Bush started fairly well, but then he really kind of gave in to that system, especially
Bush is
once the
one.
war started, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the worst presidents. If it wasn't for Obama and Biden, I would say he's the worst president in the 21st
Yeah.
century.
Uh-huh.
Fortunately for him, worse was to come. But I think you're right. I think that Bush started out. I think like many of them do, and and was fairly conservative and fairly Republican. But I think that he got played
Yep.
and just accepted it basically.
Mm-hmm.
He understood he didn't want to be Trump. And who does? Who wants to go down and lose everything to do
Yeah.
the right thing? Not many. Not many people. When you
Nope.
could just keep your mouth shut, take the punches, and get to retire with your millions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's another thing that really points towards like it really seems like Trump is not giving in to anything. I'm sure there's a lot of influence on him, and probably a lot less this time because he's got a lot better cabinet and a lot better just everything all around, advisors and all of that. But it's not showing on him like it is the other presidents.
Well, and I think who he doesn't allow around has
Mm-hmm.
makes a big difference too. I mean, the
Yeah.
way they put pressure on these guys is incredible.
Yes.
The people in charge are the people at the Pentagon and the people in the intelligence agencies that aren't elected. They're always there. They're never going away. Doesn't matter what administration comes in, they're going to be there when it's over, which isn't supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And these people should be fired a hell of a lot more often. But
Yeah.
the CIA, especially, they do it through, and I've heard these, I've heard other CIA agents talk about it and stuff. They do it through their briefings, and they first make them paranoid by convincing them that enemy countries have all these people analyzing their every breath on television and every word they say, and and you should never go off script because of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you could trigger a nuclear war if you say the wrong word on accident. Which it's true that other countries, of course, are analyzing what the president's doing all the time, trying to guess what's next. But it's not, Trump has proven. I don't think Trump takes 2 seconds to think about any of that. He does what he's going to do, period.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's part of what makes him so successful and what
Yeah.
makes him make other presidents look bad because he doesn't care about that stuff. He cares about what he's going to do, period. But then they also just feed them intelligence briefings that push them in the direction they need to push them.
Yeah.
And then if that doesn't work, then they start leaking information to the public that pushes the public to push the president in the direction they want him to go or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
WMDs in Iraq, that's a good example. That might have been leaked either because public sentiment needed to be changed, which I don't think it did. After 9/11, we were pretty much willing to bomb anywhere,
Yeah.
uh, or let our government bomb anywhere, I should say. But but it very well might have been because Bush was pushing back, and they needed more pressure on him.
Mm.
And you know who was responsible for leaking that information, that false information?
No.
The same guy that was included in those signal chats. That's why I was saying it's
Oh
not a
yeah.
coincidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, you said that before.
I can't remember his name. It's Jeffrey something.
Mm-hmm. I'm blanking on it now too, but
Goldberg, I think. Jeffrey Goldberg. That might.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the guy. That slimy guy. Um, yeah, I think there's a lot more evidence leaning towards Trump is doing a good job. He's not captured than that he is, and he's somehow hiding the fact that he was doing those things on Epstein's island.
Say that again?
I think there's more evidence that Trump is not captured and not a part of these Epstein files than there is evidence that he is.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Is
Mm-hmm.
is the people that are wanting to believe that they're zooming in on this one issue where Trump should have said something different than what he said, and
Yeah.
they're not looking at the whole of information.
Yep. Got some tunnel vision, some, being a little myopic here with all of this going on. And you got to take a second. The news cycle wants this. They want division, and they definitely want division between us because they saw 82 million people come out and vote. I don't know how it was for you guys, the listeners, I don't know how it was for you, Chris, especially where you live, but when I voted this time, it was packed. And I got there when it opened because obviously I had work to go to. So I was there first thing. And uh, it was already packed in there. And every time I've voted for anything, president or anything, there's maybe been a person or two there. And you have to remember, I live in a small town. So that's kind of common. I see like maybe one or two people coming to vote. But this time it was freaking packed. So they're scared and they're doing anything they can. And you guys are playing right into it.
Yep. Yeah, it wasn't exactly the same for me because unfortunately we have mail-in voting here in Washington.
Oh, yeah.
But the drop box was packed, and that's not
Mm-hmm.
particularly common. It was in 2020 as well. Um, but we all have our beliefs on that.
Yeah.
But I can definitely say, in the couple weeks leading up to the election, there's no question that there was more enthusiasm than ever, and it wasn't for Biden or Kamala.
Mm-hmm.
And I live in a deep blue state, but I live in a fairly red, I would say a purple county. Um,
Yeah.
and most of the state is. I mean, there's 42 counties, I think, in Washington, and like six of them are the only consistent blue ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this year or this time, the entire state of Oklahoma voted red. Usually, Tulsa
Nice.
and Oklahoma County, which is where our two biggest cities are, vote blue. They go blue. And it's by a pretty small margin, but it's enough to tilt it to be a blue county. This time it was all red. The only other state that did that was West Virginia.
Wow.
It, yeah, Oklahoma County was blue until like the election was fully done. And, California was still counting or whatever, but
Still tipped it over, huh?
yep, still got tipped over right in the end. I was like, dang.
That's incredible. And I can tell you, you know, I don't know if you ever listened to my election episodes, but unfortunately, I didn't get the one out this year that I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But in fact, I think I still have it like 95% done, but it was like a 6 hour episode.
Yeah.
But I can tell you for a fact there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of fake votes that are pushed through our state.
Yeah.
Um, and I know most blue states here on the coast, at least, operate pretty much the same way. Yeah, and it's really simple to see how. There's I don't remember exactly, so these numbers aren't real, but the proportions are real. There's
Okay.
roughly like 7 or 8 million people in Washington. I believe 5 or 6 million registered voters. There's only about 3 to 4 million that actually participate in any given election.
Mm-hmm.
So that means there are 6 million ballots mailed out, and only 3 or 4, let's say 4 million, come back, roughly. Um, that means that every single election, there are 2 million legitimate ballots that are just circulating
Mm-hmm.
out in the wild. And anybody can take one of those ballots. So, like my ballot that's mailed to me, anybody could take that out of my mailbox, fill it out, sign it, and return it. And unless I go and say something like, "Hey, I never got a ballot," or whatever, there's literally no way to know that I didn't fill that out and send it in. The only verification that we have is signature verification.
Mm-hmm.
And supposedly they're checking your signature against the signature that they allegedly have on file, which I would guess is your driver's license, because I've
Yeah.
certainly never sent them a signature specifically for
Yeah.
voting. But I intentionally sign my ballot different every single time just to see if it ever gets kicked back. Never once
Mm-hmm.
has.
Well then.
4 elections, 4 different signatures, never been kicked back. And the idea that they could actually check them, it's all counted in a day or two. The
Yeah.
idea they could actually check them against the signature in that time is just ludicrous. It's not like a computer's doing it. Um, And so anyway, the going rate for a ballot around here is like $15.
Hmm.
Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, depending on how badly, somebody needs one at that moment. The other thing they do is they go around to the homeless camps and they sign up anybody that they can.
Yeah.
They claim that, you have to be a citizen, but you can sign up with just a driver's license, and anybody can get a driver's license, including illegals.
Mm-hmm.
But they go around to these camps and they sign everybody up that they can. None of those homeless people are voting. They're too
Yeah.
busy trying to figure out where they're getting their bag for the day. They're not voting.
Mm-hmm.
And those ballots go to general delivery at the post office because they don't have a home. There's nowhere to actually deliver them to.
Yeah.
And so what they do is called general delivery, for anybody that doesn't know, which is just that it goes to whatever post office you dictate, and you go and pick it up just like a P.O. box, except you don't actually have to pay for a P.O. box if you just ask for general delivery.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know that was possible, but apparently it is. So that means all those ballots are in one place for them. All the ballots go through the mail anyway, so all they
Yeah.
have to do is have the ones that they know aren't going to real people, because our voter rolls haven't been cleaned in God knows how long either.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm sure they have a nice long list of people that don't vote and dead people and people that have moved out of state, etc. And they just have to have those ballots siphoned off
Yeah.
and collected. That's it. Or anything that's returned without being filled out goes in a box, and then it goes back to who? The people in charge of the election. Who's the people in charge of the election? Well, it's been Democrats for 40 years.
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot
Yeah.
of holes in there where you could find corruption. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's a dozen and a half ways to put in a ballot that nobody could ever, and that's why they get away with saying, there was such a tiny amount of fraud. Well, it's because there's no way to prove that it's a fraudulent
mm-hmm.
ballot.
Yeah. And I think that's why Trump kind of, when he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, he kind of dodged that question. When Joe asked him about how the election was stolen, how he thought it was, and whatever, and he kind of dodged that question. And I think it's because there's probably not enough evidence, but there's enough to say it and not really be wrong. You're just never going to actually find the evidence of it being done because, like we've said earlier, they're not just going to write that down. And the fact is that a majority of that stuff that is happening, it was probably happening on individual levels. It was probably those post office workers selling those ballots to someone, and or just individual people going and stealing them, whatever.
Mhm.
So,
Well, in this state, they literally Democrat operatives, people that volunteer, to help Democrats during the election,
mm-hmm.
go and collect them, because you can also ballot harvest here legally, which is supposed to just be going to, like, I'm going to go to a nursing home and collect all the old people's ballots that are filled out and turn them in. Basically, what it means is you can turn in somebody else's ballot.
Hmm.
You're only supposed to be turning in, sealed, filled out ballots.
Yeah.
But who's to say if somebody
Mm-hmm.
gives you a ballot that's not filled out, who's going to see you filling it out in your own
Exactly.
home before you go turn it in? They're not tracked.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
kind of.
I think you're right. I think he had gotten roasted enough on technicalities of the way he spoke about it to just drop it and accept the fact that he wasn't going to, kind of like the Epstein thing. He's accepted the fact that he can't prove it.
Mm-hmm.
He knows it happened. We can point to a lot of things that are shady, like I just did, but that doesn't prove anything. I didn't prove that they've stolen the election.
Yeah.
I believe firmly that they do every single election in this state, at least, but I can't prove it. But I can show you how I think they're doing it and all these places where it's certainly possible for them to do it.
Yeah. Exactly. Something I'd really like to see from Trump, though, is him coming back on podcasts. But I know that it's a it's a thing that I want to see, but I definitely understand why it's not happening because this dude is busy. he's sleeping like 4 to 5 hours a night, and he is from like the minute he wakes up till he goes to sleep, he's working. When he's on the golf course and all the Democrats are screaming about now all of a sudden it's taxpayer dollars are being wasted and we care about it,
All worried about it now.
he's still working on that golf course, even though it's his weekend. So I understand, like the little bit of like leisure time he has, he's still even using as time to work. So
Yeah, it's kind of funny because all the comments that we all knew, including Democrats, knew were bull about Biden being he's the hardest working president ever. It's
mm-hmm.
really true about Trump, especially
Yeah,
for a president of his age. I don't think
yeah.
anybody. I don't know how he does it during
I
the
don't know
campaign.
if I could do it the way he does it.
Yeah, I know I can. I might be able to if I trained for a year,
Mm-hmm.
especially during the campaign, flying all these different places and going out and speaking off the cuff for 3, 4, 5 hours, and then getting on a plane, waking up in a different time zone, and doing it all over again without a single day break.
Mm-hmm.
And he did that the last, I forget what it was. I think it was the last 90 days of the election or the last 60 days. He was in a new place every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day. Putting on one of those rallies is tough enough on its own. And the average person, if they put on one of those rallies, would need 2 days beforehand and no less than 2 days afterhand,
Mm-hmm.
afterwards to recover. Um, but it's like it energized him more. I don't understand.
mm-hmm.
But putting his being over 80 aside, I don't understand how he did it as a human being,
Yeah.
especially the flying because jet lag is a real thing and
Mm-hmm.
it, I don't know. I can't do it. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going hard out there. Um, no cap. Uh, yeah, I'd love to see because JD Vance came back on Theo Vaughn's podcast, and that was cool. Um, I didn't like what he said about Palantir, but I still don't know about that. Um,
I don't know who that is.
Palantar, something like that. It's this company that collects information, and I guess Trump is wanting to sign some sort of contract with them so that the government can use the information. And so everyone's obviously like freaking out, surveillance state, blah, blah, blah. But JD Vance said like the information's going to be collected, but it's not always just going to be like available. It's just going to be for using, this is obviously always talk about the good things, talk about the good things. But basically, you're going to have to go through some hoops a little bit to get this information. It's going to be used for criminals and all this stuff. I don't remember all the details on it, but
Yeah, I will say that is um, that's something that I have a issue with this administration, and it's a good thing to point out since we're telling people to get over certain things,
mm-hmm.
because this administration has done a couple things. I also read today. I don't know if this is part of the same thing or not, but I also read today that they're going to allow the ICE to access medical records, supposedly. And I don't think they're actually allowing them to access medical records. I should rephrase that.
Yeah.
They're being able to access information from Medicaid to identify people. Now, just because it's coming from Medicaid doesn't mean it's medical records. But, um, and I don't know that that's 100% true. I didn't look into it. I just read that
Yeah.
from probably a mainstream media source. So give that the credibility it deserves. But that's not the first example. What you're talking about as well. And I don't like that because that goes against conservative principles.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, Trump has never been a conservative.
Yeah.
He's championed some conservative causes, but he's never been a conservative. And I knew that when I voted for him.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do wish that he would consider the implications once he's gone.
Yeah.
Because as much as I would like to think that we're looking at 4 years or 8 years of Vance after this, and maybe Trump Jr. after that, it's not going to happen realistically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I just, it's not any worse than anything else that's been going on since the Patriot Act, but I don't see why we need to add to it. I really don't.
Yeah.
There's other ways to go about this.
Yeah, I think the Patriot Act needs to be X'd, but I think it served its purpose and it's done with.
Yeah, I was really pissed that they voted that back through the last time.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things, I don't think it's ever going to go away, but certainly not the parts that suck about it. I'm sure they'll get rid of the quote unquote Patriot Act, but they'll also find a way to keep all the stuff they like about it,
Yep.
surveillance stuff. But it doesn't matter anyway, because even if they get rid of it, and this is why we just got to fire everybody.
Yeah. Get him.
Because, and this is what the anti-Israel crowd people, and I shouldn't say anti-Israel, but the anti-Jew crowd, because I'm not anti-Israel, but as I've said already, I believe we're two separate nations and we should be two separate nations, period.
Yeah.
But the one thing that they are correct about is not that the IDF is this magic all-powerful intelligence agency, despite the fact the GDP of Israel is the same as Tennessee. But it is that the IDF has a hand in a lot of operations involving America. And the reason for that is plausible deniability for our intelligence agencies.
Mm-hmm.
They can't go to Russia and have Russia, do whatever it is here in America on their behalf, because they couldn't trust Russia to do it. So they go to an ally and say, hey, IDF, will you please spy on these Americans? Because the Constitution doesn't allow us to, but it doesn't stop
Mm-hmm.
you from doing it, and then you can give us the information. That kind of stuff does happen. But again, that comes back to our intelligence agencies, not the IDF being some magic all powerful, country that is somehow able to control the entire globe from an area the size of Massachusetts with a GDP of Tennessee.
Yep.
Anyway, um, but that is, even if we got rid of all of the the Patriot Act and all of that, they'd still just use ally intelligence agencies. The IDF's only one of them too.
Yeah.
I'm sure Great Britain does it, and Ireland and all the other countries in Europe too. So at the end of the day, that doesn't make it okay by any means. But at the end of the day, we have to get rid of these people in government at whatever level they're at that are just tolerating this kind of corruption and are it's business as usual for them, because you're
Mm-hmm.
not going to change their minds. They've already long since written off their moral obligations to the American people. So you just need to get rid of them and move on. And the same thing with the people that deserve to be in jail. I firmly believe Hillary Clinton, for example, deserves to be in jail.
Yeah.
But you're never going to put her in jail. It's not going to happen. And it's really not a good thing to ask for, because that's when you get to prosecuting political opponents and all that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they deserve to be in jail 100%, absolutely no question. Certain people do. But we cannot do it within our legal system
Yeah.
because of the protections we have. And so we have to be okay with firing them, letting them die off, and moving on to something better. Just like we were talking about in the last podcast, you do the right thing because it's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
If we expect them to uphold the Constitution and the protections that it affords, then we have to do the same thing. And while they deserve to go on trial, and if there's clear evidence that can be used, great. But if there's any ambiguity at all, then you have to just accept firing them and moving on.
Yeah.
Because the
Exactly.
fact is, when we hired them to work for our government, we gave them a certain amount of what do you call it? Protection. I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but
Yeah.
a certain amount of insulation by doing that. So we have to accept our responsibility in giving them that power too.
Exactly. Yeah, Trump is quoted saying that he had all the ability to arrest Hillary and prosecute her, but he didn't. And I
Mhm.
think Trump time and time again shows restraint. Like we can look at the ICE raids that are going on in the LA riots that I covered and you covered on your show. All these things that they're doing to these cop cars, I can watch these videos over and over again. They're throwing rocks at them, they're setting stuff on fire, even when they're on the ground outside of cars and they're kind of pushing these crowds back. All the things that are happening. No one's getting shot. And they have every right to be shooting these people. But Trump is showing, I'm sure he gave them exact orders to, like, unless they are pointing a gun at you and about to shoot you, don't shoot them. Even though they are literally using deadly weapons.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's as much a Trump thing specifically, but it could be. I wouldn't be surprised, like you said. But that is what I expect from our law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, you know, we're giving you the authority to take away freedoms from us, right? I expect you to use every bit of restraint that you possibly have.
Yeah.
And, I've made this argument before on my show about police. I back police 100%
Mm-hmm.
as long as they're doing everything within their power.
Yeah.
And I understand that humans are humans, and I'm perfectly willing to have that empathy for a cop. But if you're also, revenue generating on the weekend because you know it's wrong, but your boss tells you to, and you're not standing up to that,
Mm-hmm.
then I can't give you the leeway here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And for example, when when COVID was happening, Washington State Patrol mandated the vaccine,
Mm.
and about 104 officers, I think, refused, just flat out
Yeah.
refused. And all it would have taken to for this to go away was for every officer not to show up until they were reinstated.
Yeah.
If the day they got fired, none of the state patrol showed up, they would have reinstated them before 3 o'clock that afternoon. But
Mm-hmm.
they did. And so everybody in Washington State Patrol, as far as I'm concerned, should be fired.
Yeah.
They're not even going to stand up for the rights of their own. They're certainly not going to stand up for my rights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
But
support police a lot too. And I obviously like I understand their job and I respect their job because it's not a job I'd want to do. But I do think that there is a lot of corruption in majority of police departments. I think mostly city departments. I don't see it as much in like
state,
sheriffs and stuff. But so I think something needs to go on there too.
yeah, and it's just even if everything was perfect with police officers, though, I do expect them to,
Mm-hmm.
to not shoot back in the situations that you outlined.
Yeah.
Because while, yes, as an individual, they absolutely would have the right to use deadly force in that case. If somebody attacks you with their fist, I don't care. You have the right to shoot them. If it's out of nowhere on the street or whatever,
Yeah.
if you agree to a fight, that's an entirely different thing. But or if you're egging somebody on for a fight and they punch you in the face, you don't get to just shoot them because
Mm-hmm.
it anyway. But in situations of zero ambiguity, I don't care what they attack you with. You have the right to use whatever means available to you.
Mm-hmm.
And each officer has that right as an individual. But once you put on that uniform and you're not just representing all of us, but you're given a certain amount of authority over all of us, then it is your obligation to be the bigger person every time, to have the most
Yes.
restraint in every situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think often police officers do. I'm when it comes to officer involved shootings and stuff, I'm almost always on the side of the cop because I understand, in those life and death situations that you don't have the choices that some people think you have. Why don't you
Yeah.
shoot him in the leg? You don't even have time to think about that, let alone do it. Um, but
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't excuse, all the other stuff on top of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, as far as the restraint from Trump, I agree. He has had a ton of restraint. I'm not sure that that's a great example of it, but
Yeah. Yeah.
as far as like Clinton, at that time, I'm sure he could have gone after Clinton. His administration could have, because I mean, she literally faked falling on national TV to avoid having to testify.
Mm-hmm.
There was more than enough dirt to find, I'm sure, but he didn't, and he shouldn't have, because had he done that, then it would have completely justified in every single Democrat's mind when they went after him in New York, no matter how illegitimate that was, and
Yeah.
no matter how legitimate going after Hillary was. That doesn't matter because politics are involved. And so, as much as I want to see Hillary Clinton specifically in jail, I don't think there's a way to do it where we maintain the the moral authority. I think is the best way to put it.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's what Trump does is he's always trying to be the bigger person because we all know if he lets that down once and doesn't be the bigger person in the situation, we'll never hear the end of it, and that'll just be more fuel to the fire for his opposers.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question about that. I think so too. I think that he does try to do that at the very least the majority of the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he listens to us fairly well too. Maybe not so much on this Epstein thing, but I feel like a majority of the time he has said things and then gotten feedback and changed the opinion. One of the things that I think he hasn't is the short act and all that that everyone was really wanting, and then that Parliament thing like shot it down and removed it, and so they had to put it back in and they botched it. Uh, that was kind of one of the things that everyone was talking about that I didn't see him like do anything about, but
Yeah, I wish he would have. I wish he would have put the pressure on him. I don't think
mm-hmm.
Trump particularly cares about guns, and
Yeah,
so
he's said that a couple of times, so I don't think it's one of his big issues that he's really
well,
worried
and
about.
what he said about bump stocks, for example, nobody cared about bump stocks, and it's true. No, no two, no two-way person cares about bump stocks themselves.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I could care less. They were a toy. They weren't. They're not a serious practical thing.
Yeah.
The, no, what am I trying to say? No capabilities by civilians have been lost by losing bump stocks.
Yeah.
But what Trump, I think, doesn't understand because he's not a two-way guy is that you can't give that inch because what happened? Biden used the exact same authorities to then ban polymer 80 lowers, which
Mm-hmm.
was a removal of capabilities
Yeah.
from civilians, and a few other things that he did in conjunction with that. And I think that because guns aren't important to him, he doesn't make that connection, and apparently nobody's made it to him.
Yeah.
I do think he certainly listens better than any president that we've had,
Mm-hmm.
at least in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Any other president, excuse me, any other president, as far as this Epstein stuff, wouldn't have said a thing. They might have had
Nope.
their mouthpiece say something or answer a question, but they would just ignore this till it goes away.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Biden and Kamala like dodged interviews. Dodged them.
I
And
can tell you,
Trump does his interviews all the time. So
I can tell you exactly what the Biden administration would have done if a reporter asked, "Why haven't you released the Epstein files?" Karine Jean-Pierre would have said, "Really, really,"
mm,
and then called on somebody else.
yep.
That's it. That's all you would have got.
Hmm. What do you think about Carolyn Levitt? Think she does a good job?
Yeah, yeah. I don't have any complaints. I don't think.
Yeah.
I haven't paid a whole lot of attention to her, to be honest. I
Hmm.
did when the administration first got in because of how good, um, what's her name was the second press secretary in the first administration, and Huckabee was fine too, but she wasn't nearly as good as uh, whatever the second lady. I can't remember her name offhand.
Yeah.
She wasn't nearly as good as her,
Uh huh.
and I'm not sure that this new one was quite as good as her either. But she is very good. Um, so I don't, once I saw that she was good at it, I just kind of left it at that and haven't really paid any
Hmm.
attention. So
Yeah. Yeah. And the White House social media account is the X one, especially. I mean, it's the only one I see, but they go hard. I love everything that comes out of them. It's so funny.
I haven't. I was following the White House account, but at some point during the Biden administration, I got rid of it because I just couldn't take it anymore. Um, so I haven't
Yeah.
seen it.
Yeah, I had him blocked too during that time. And weirdly enough, I would have Biden blocked, but sometimes I would his tweets would come up. Um, but yeah, they have some funny stuff, like the that lady that got arrested, and she was an illegal immigrant fentanyl trafficker, um, just trying to make it in America. But and they made that AI photo of her because she was crying when she got arrested. I was dying of. And they were so mad about that. They get so mad. Like, just
They get
laugh
mad
at
about
it.
everything in every little.
Yep. They had something the other day too that was hilarious. I don't know who he's got running that or who chooses to run that and whatever, but I love it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that would be the press secretary or if they have somebody specific just for the account or what.
Hmm. It's cool to see him be in touch with the younger generation because their memes are great.
Are they?
They've got all
Yeah,
kinds of stuff. Let me see if I can.
Trump has certainly done that better than anybody. I mean, just about anybody. The Democrats were seen to have the younger generation locked down, and in general, as far as voting numbers, they do, but that's only because younger people are naturally inclined to vote left. Because when you're young, not only do you have no experience, but you have nothing. You have no assets,
Hmm.
you have no income, you have nothing to protect. And therefore, when somebody's offering you free stuff and just not telling you about the fact they're going to take all the stuff that you will eventually get, um, that's what you're going to vote for.
Yeah.
But despite that huge advantage that they have, they still can't even compare it to Trump as far as actually convincing voters, young voters.
Exactly. Yeah, the Democratic Party is definitely out of touch with younger voters, the real younger voters. Um,
I'm I'm really curious what they're going to do because they're at this turning point right now. So for a long time, the last generation of progressives, they understood that they still had to pretend to be liberals. They would do progressive things behind the scenes. They would try to get, their they would do most of the progressive things either in secret, like in Congress, they shove it in a 5,000-page bill, or uh, they would do it through, um, you know, other agencies and stuff, so their name wasn't on it directly.
Yeah.
And during campaigns and stuff, they would pretend to be liberal. But then you get this newer generation of progressives, AOCs and the like. The amount of progressives in the voting base of Democrats hasn't really changed at all, at least since probably LBJ.
Mm-hmm.
But this newer generation, they don't want to they don't want to pretend to be liberal. They just want to be full progressive because for whatever reason, they think that the support is there, even though poll after poll after poll shows that it isn't. And so that's, in my opinion, that is why the divide right now. That is what
Yeah.
caused the divide over Kamala and stuff. The younger generation wants her to just go full communist progressive, whereas the older generation wanted them to take a step back and pretend to be liberal, even if that meant slowing down their progress a little bit. And, they just don't want to do it. So it's going to be interesting to figure out where they land. It's honestly better for us if they land on radical progressive, because that is what they are as far as at the party level. That is what they are, no matter what they land on. It's just how they're going to sell themselves to the American people.
Yeah.
And there's still a big chunk of Democrats. They just don't want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said on the last one, I understand why they don't want to see it, because as soon as you acknowledge it, you have to acknowledge all these things you were duped about.
Yep.
But
Well, while you were talking, I sent you some of their memes that they made.
I know I had to, that's why I paused in the
Yeah.
sentence because I thought I muted myself. I'm like, what? Even ET knew when it was time to go home. But my son the other night, we went to Universal about a year
Mm-hmm.
ago in Florida for vacation, and we went on the ET ride. And despite the fact that it was made like 15 years ago or so, it was like one of the first rides
Yeah.
that they did there. It was actually still one of the coolest. But anyway, he was flipping through the stuff on TV, and he's like, "Look, Dad, it looks like that ET ride that we took at Universal." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I looked at the TV, and it was literally the movie ET. I'm like, "Oh, you mean the movie that the ride is based on?"
Oh man, I loved that movie though.
I haven't seen it since I was a kid.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I remember I really liked it.
I swiped right. I'm gonna have to click on this so I can go follow that account. That's
They get good stuff. Like they post all these illegal immigrants that get arrested and why. It's like pedophile, drug dealer. It's like I thought they didn't exist. What do you mean?
Oh, I know. It's ridiculous point too. It's funny that apparently I am following them. I just haven't seen anything.
Hmm.
Maybe I did I mute them or whatever it's called. Yeah, I did. I turned off notifications. There we go. Okay. Um, it the well, I don't want to say bots. I don't like saying bots. 'Cause they're not all bots, but
Yeah.
the left floods Twitter with propaganda of stories
Mm-hmm.
of hard luck immigrants and supposed U.S. citizens and all this stuff that have been swept up in these ICE raids,
Yeah.
despite the fact that the you know none of it's true. Virtually none of it's true, and if it is,
Mm-hmm.
it's completely unprovable. There's
Yep.
never, there's always a random picture of somebody, not them being arrested by ICE, just a random picture,
Yep.
so that you have a picture to look at for your heartwarming story,
Yep.
or story that pulls on your heartstrings rather. And then of course, some hard luck story about how they were just going about their business, and ICE
Yeah.
just and beat them over the head until they were a bloody pulp, and then threw them in Guantanamo.
Yeah, they were just a kid that was picking marijuana on a farm, and ICE came and arrested him. Why would they do that?
And they just say, oh, they're just indiscriminately picking anybody up, and not even um, not even checking if they're a citizen or not. It's like they're deporting less people right now than under the Biden administration.
Mm-hmm.
They literally, I mean, the ICE raids that set off the protest in LA a little while ago. It was 2 days of raids, I believe, that started the protests, and they only arrested like 150 people.
Yeah.
They claimed it was thousands. It was like 150 people, all of which had a record.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, it doesn't matter if they have a record or
Yep.
not. If they're in the country illegally, they're in the country illegally. And then they always claim, oh, this person was claiming asylum. Yeah, they were claiming
Of course they
asylum.
were.
Then a judge determined that their asylum claim wasn't legitimate and thus
Mm-hmm.
ordered them to be deported. Pretty much everybody, the point is, pretty much everybody that's been deported so far has either been ordered by a judge to be deported or has a criminal record here
Yeah.
or in their home country.
How
And
do you
here's
think?
the thing.
Yeah.
They're here illegally. So we don't have to prove that they're actually a murderer. If we have
Mm-hmm.
reasonable suspicion, that's good enough. Because either way, we're not taking their freedom away. We're deporting them.
Yep.
They're not going to jail. They're going to their home. We don't need anything but probable cause in that case.
Yeah. Yeah. And a majority of the people that they say are just being arrested willy nilly for no reason, they're actually being detained, which is a difference. So they may just be being detained while they're figuring out if they're here illegally or not, or the person, like actually the person they were going after, if they haven't identified them yet. It's not, they're not actually just arresting citizens. And I see tons of stories about, oh, someone was trying to come here, and then they, uh, the customs agents or whatever, forced them to unlock their phone, and then they found a meme in there that was criticizing JD Vance or criticizing Trump, and so they sent him back home. It's like, and then you actually read the story, and
Yeah,
no, they were a
actually,
drug dealer.
yeah. And that is something that everybody is subject to. And don't get me wrong, U.S. citizens, and I don't think U.S. citizens are actually. Uh,
Yeah,
and U.S. If they are, they shouldn't be subject to
yeah. I mean,
uh, customs going through their stuff. But well, they're from specifically.
mm-hmm.
Obviously, your bag is subject because of, and even that,
Yeah,
I don't like that, and I'm perfectly okay with changing that sort of thing. However, that's been the law for a long time. It's not as if these are new laws instituted by Donald Trump. But especially when it comes to somebody that's not a citizen, we don't have to let you in this country at all. It does not matter if you've done nothing wrong. We don't have to let you in. Therefore, if you want to come in and customs has reasonable suspicion that you've done something wrong or are lying about why you're coming here or whatever, they're going to ask to go through your stuff. If you deny them, they're going to send you home. Again, they're not taking your freedom, they're sending you home. They don't
mm-hmm.
need a reason. I don't know.
Even ET knew when to go home.
Any country that you go to, I mean, there's on, I think it's Hulu, you
Mm-hmm.
can watch Australian customs. You
Mm.
wouldn't believe how strict they are.
Oh,
If you have a carton of, if you have one pack more than a carton of cigarettes, that's trafficking.
oh,
And they can send you home for that and do. In general, they usually take them and fine them when it comes to cigarettes specifically, but they can send you home for that.
yeah.
And I mean, they're extremely tough on it in Australia. I've watched that show a few times. But they're very tough, a lot tougher than our agents are. But I don't have a problem with them being tough on foreigners. Again,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I I don't like that Americans give up most of their rights when they step into an airport and go through security.
Yeah.
An airport is not a special exception to the Constitution. Again, that's part of the Patriot Act and all of that. That needs to be fixed, no question.
Yeah.
But that's how it's been for 20 years now, so we don't get to blame it on Donald Trump. And all of that stuff should still apply to foreigners because nobody should be coming into this country lying about why they're coming here. Period.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Every time that I've been out of the country and came back, I've never had to present my phone and have them unlock it, nor to the country I went to. But that was in 2016 and 2017.
When I was a teenager, I didn't have my phone. I've never had my phone gone through, but I wasn't traveling internationally either.
Mm-hmm.
It was only domestic flights, and that's probably why. Otherwise, I probably would have. But I definitely got a lot more scrutiny when I was a teenager because I was a young kid, generally traveling alone. I was, not super young. I think the first time I flew alone, I was 12. And in
Mm-hmm.
that case, my parents told me I was flying alone, but my dad's boss, who is somebody I know pretty well, my dad's worked for him for a couple decades. But anyway, he was actually traveling on the flight. My parents didn't tell me that because I think they wanted me to, you know, feel like I was actually alone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then after that, I think 14 was the next time I flew. And I flew another handful of times till I was 18. But I always got pulled aside to have my bag gone through to do the
Yeah.
extra X-ray and stuff because that's a common, the cartels frequently use teenagers to mule
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And
Yeah.
I was a single teenager traveling alone. That is exactly the scenario
Mm-hmm.
that happens. And so even at that age, I understood why. It took me a little while, obviously, but eventually I understood why. And, you know, it didn't bother me because of that. But
Yeah. Yeah. Going back to like what you were saying, that less people are being deported now than even under Biden's administration. I'll tell you something that's a personal experience for me is I live off of one of the drug highways. And when I was a teenager and young adult,
hold
I
on,
used
what do you mean drug highway? Just like a
I
corridor?
40 and I 35. They're like the most commonly used
Okay.
because they go pretty much the whole length of it. But, anyways, so I used to see almost weekly, I would say, at least weekly, cops having someone pulled over and the entire car would be on the side of the road
Mm-hmm.
because they were busting drugs. But as time has gone on, I can't tell you the last time I've even seen that now. It got to be like maybe a monthly thing and then every other month. And now I haven't even seen that in a long time. And a lot of it was also they were catching illegal immigrants smuggling drugs, not just people smuggling drugs, illegal immigrants smuggling drugs. And one of the
Or
funniest stories I remember was one time it happened while I was in school, but they pulled over this, just typical like economy van. Um, and as soon as the officer walks up to the window to have him roll it down, he was on the driver's side. The passenger side, like swinging doors open, and literally like 30 Mexicans came piling out of this car and just scattered. They ran across the highway, almost got ran over, ran down the hill that they were on top of, and it was only about a mile away from a school, and they had to lock that school down. But it
right,
was one of the funniest things that I saw. And the cop, he's just standing on the side of the road, like, which one do I go after?
right.
But yeah, that used to happen a lot more, and I don't see it as much, really, at
Yeah,
all.
there's no question that through fear of drugs and fear of um, terrorism and whatever else, we've given way too much power to law enforcement and to the government. No question. But all that long predated Trump and has nothing to do with the Trump administration, nor has to do with the Trump administration enforcing deportations. It just doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I I'm pissed that
Yeah.
the Trump administration is only deporting less than under Biden. I
Mm-hmm.
understand why. It's because of these injunctions. And if
Yeah.
it should increase from here. If it doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably still going to be pissed about it because the promise was we were going to get rid of a good chunk of the millions of illegal aliens that are in the country. The crime is that they
Exactly.
entered the country illegally. And yes, I want the worst gone first. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad that they're on the worst first. But it needs to be a lot more than just the worst. I don't care how good of a citizen they are while they're here. They can only be so
Yeah.
good of a citizen anyway because they can't legitimately pay taxes and they can't um they, they can't assimilate, they can't a lot of things.
Yeah.
So they can only be so good of a citizen anyway. And it's not fair to them because they get taken advantage of left and right.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
so by you arguing for them to stay here because they're a hard worker, you're
Mm-hmm.
literally arguing to keep them. I don't want to say enslaved because it's not exactly the same thing as slavery, but it is
Yeah.
pretty close. It is the closest thing you can get without being slavery.
Mm-hmm.
You're literally allowing them to be taken advantage of
Yeah.
by predatory companies, by cartels, by police, even by everybody,
Mm-hmm.
all because they're scared of getting deported.
Yeah.
It's not about the individual. I empathize with the individual that's just here trying to make a better life.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about that. It's just about the fact that we cannot just allow anybody in here without knowing who they are and without them giving up the allegiance to the country they came from.
Exactly.
You cannot come here and siphon, an individual's worth of money out of our country and send it to your country. It will destroy our country. And
Yep.
that's the other thing is, they finally passed a tax on sending money out of the country, and I'm
Hmm.
pretty pissed about that. That was in the BBB,
I didn't even know that.
and I'm pretty pissed about that because it was only 5%.
Yeah.
I got to pay 33% in taxes, 35% in taxes, but they get to pay 5.
Hmm.
And aside from that, it should be 90%.
Yeah.
They're sending money out of our country. That does
Mm-hmm.
not benefit our economy. Yes,
No.
trading with other nations can benefit our economy. Just coming here and earning money and sending it out of the country does not benefit our economy.
Yeah. That's why I think the tariffs are good. So we can try and that's the main goal of these tariffs is to keep our money inside of America
Right.
as much
Yeah,
as
and
possible.
I definitely agree the intent of the tariffs are good. I just
Mm-hmm.
am a little skeptical it's going to turn out that way. But we'll see how
Yeah.
it goes. I'm willing to give it a shot because what we've been doing isn't working. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, Trump made that deal with Vietnam where he now opened up a market for American vehicles in Vietnam, which is unheard of, but wasn't on the news.
interesting.
I think it's a 20% tariff um, for Vietnam. Like, no, Vietnam has the 20% tariff on us, and we have a 0% tariff on them now. So they can pretty much trade freely with us, but we can't trade freely with them. So that should incentivize more like Nike maybe coming here, but also them to be able to buy stuff from us more freely.
Interesting. I agree with the idea, and I agree that the logic is there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so long as the guiding principle is this, I'm okay with there being permanent 5% or or some under 10% amount, right?
Mm-hmm.
If that's just the default minimum, I'm okay with that. But I think the best case scenario would be I'm perfectly fine with using whatever tariffs are necessary that are reciprocal with a country that is tariffing us, or in some other way leveraging their business against ours, right?
Yeah.
But I also want, if a country trades freely with us, that we trade freely with them. Again, with the exception of maybe a 3 or 5% or whatever
Yeah.
minimum. But
Yeah.
I do believe that free trade is the best for both, as long as it's actually free trade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I like the idea of at least trying to get some of this manufacturing built back here, and
Yeah, 100%.
I think over time they'll work out, and maybe we can start dropping things off here and there as we get things back. But we still need to, I think, work out other incentives to build business here, and that's just one of those things of making America great again, making it the hub of innovation and manufacturing and everything.
It it's got to come with regulation, and that's
Mm-hmm.
where I wish Donald Trump was pushing a hell of a lot harder than he is. The stuff that he has decided to focus on, I understand why the trade deals he's focusing on, for example,
Yeah.
because that's that's in his wheelhouse, right? That's what he has always done.
Yeah.
So I understand why that was kind of primary to him. However, it was not my primary concern. I'm much more concerned about the long-term stuff than the economy being good under him. Then the
Yeah.
economy's naturally going to be good under him because of the better policies in general.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I want to see him pushing Congress to get regulations overturned. I want to see spending being cut. Those sorts of
Yes.
things.
Yes.
But regulations by far. I mean, we can't do anything in this country, even if he gets the tariffs just right to where it does make sense for most manufacturers to manufacture in America again, which I do believe is important. My biggest
Mm-hmm.
concern is the fact that we have zero manufacturing capability on important things like medicine,
Yep.
and things like that. But we at least need diversity on it. I don't want it to be 100% here in America, but it can't be 100% in China,
Yeah.
which is what it is right
Okay.
now for things like medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's not going to happen without the regulations, because and then that includes infrastructure and all that too. We can't fix our infrastructure at all because you can't do anything. You can't build anything. We talked about the oil refineries
Yeah.
last time.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the tariffs being perfect, you're still not going to be able to manufacture here because you're not going to be able to build a new manufacturing facility for 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's going to cost you 100 times more than it would cost you literally anywhere else in the world. And not because Americans get paid more,
Yeah.
but because of our regulations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I see what you're
Progress-
saying.
Progressives literally put these regulations in place to stifle American innovation because they
Yep.
knew in order to make a single world power, you have to bring America down. You
Mm-hmm.
just simply can't bring the rest of the world up to America's level. You have to bring the rest of the world up some and America down some.
Yep.
We need to recognize that and fix those problems because I don't give a crap about a single world government. I care about America, period.
Mm-hmm.
And I will equally care about any country that that is run by the citizens.
Yeah.
There isn't one. So
Nope.
right now, I don't have to care about anybody but America.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of steps we need to take if we're going to make America great again. And that's definitely one of them. Because I just see the middle class hurting so much, um, because obviously I'm in the middle class and I experience it myself, and that's all the people I talk to. I don't talk to any rich people, so not moderately rich people, but and so that's just what I want to see is the middle class become great again, really first.
Well, and that's because, and that's what targeting manufacturing and all that. That's
Mm-hmm.
exactly what it does. What makes a country an economic powerhouse?
The middle class.
The 100%. Look at look at countries like China. You have really rich, you have really poor. Even even in Europe, you have
Yep.
somewhat of a middle class, but in general, you have the really rich and the really poor. We look at England, for example, or Britain rather, and we tend to think that they live relatively similar lives to us. They don't.
Yeah.
They
Nope.
live on incomes about 50% of the average Americans,
Mm-hmm.
and they pay much higher taxes. Um, at least 15-20% more than we do.
Yep.
And that's true in most of Europe. But anyway, the middle class is what really defines it, because that is a while there's while there is a significant number of rich in America, excuse me. Overall, it's a tiny amount, and it's fairly insignificant to the overall health of the country.
Mm-hmm.
The poor is obviously a drag on the country and the economy, but our poor isn't really that big either in comparison to others. That center amount is where the hundreds of millions of people reside,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
and that's what makes the economic powerhouse.
Yep.
Probably not the best explanation in the world, but
Mm-hmm.
um, and so that's what progressives targeted from the beginning,
Oh yeah.
and everything has been about punishing the middle class while making the rich richer, because where they that's their donor base, that's their
Yep.
um, and themselves for that matter, and the poor richer too. They they the poor being richer is more of a drag on the economy. And I know that sounds weird, but it is, because you're siphoning money from the top end to give to the bottom end. And so by
Mm. Yep.
the more incentive you give to the poor, the more you're taking from the people that are actually driving the economy, and the more you're souring them on effort and all of that.
Yep.
Why work harder when you're taking my money and giving it to this person anyway? Um, and so I appreciate that the things that Trump is focusing on are for the middle class, but I don't think he's focusing on the most important things, at least as of yet.
Yeah.
And 4 years is a short amount of time, so I hope that gets corrected. And that's why getting Trump in office was great, and I think it was important, but that was relatively easy.
Mm-hmm.
What we need to do is get everybody that's in Congress out.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone. Frankly, don't vote for anybody that's affiliated with either party.
Yeah. We should
You
really
can
get
vote
all the incumbents out.
for whatever. Yeah, it that's like the biggest thing you could do as far as trying to fix Congress. The best thing that we could do is just vote for somebody new every time.
Yeah.
Let's start cycling people through. And that way,
Mm-hmm.
even if they are a party apparatus, by the time they start getting the hang of Washington, they're out.
Yeah.
And by doing that, we drastically impact the ability that the Washington apparatus has to influence them.
Mm-hmm. Or anyone that you specifically have taken, you know, I don't know what I was gonna say, but the elites, or if you think APAC's a problem or whatever, the more often that we get these guys cycled out, the less chance that these affiliations take root.
Right. The less chance. It's also far more expensive for them.
Mm-hmm.
Buying a senator is easy because you're buying them for the next 50 years. Buying a new senator every 4 years and a new House member every 6 years, especially because there's what, 500 people? There's 500 people total
Yeah,
in Congress, just about. It's
right
400
around
people.
there.
I think it's actually closer to 400, 432 if I remember right. But anyway, if those people are cycling every 4 and 6 years, then that's a lot more people you got to buy off.
Yeah.
But if the vast majority, I would say at least 50%, are staying for term after term after term, you only have to lock them up once. And then it's
Mm-hmm.
really easy to keep them there.
Yep. What do you think about term limits? Do you think that's a thing? Should be a thing?
Yeah. Um, I do because, I go back and forth on it, but I do
Mm-hmm.
because we've kind of proven that we're not willing to kick these people out when they're not doing their job.
Yeah.
Um, I wish it wasn't necessary, I guess I'll say,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I do think it'll help a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
tweeted the other day that what I think would help the most, the quickest, is to make their salaries contingent on appropriately spending the budget.
Exactly.
Every dollar that they spend over the budget needs to come out of salaries, and it needs to come out from the top first.
Yeah.
They'll have a budget that day. The problem is when we send these people to Washington, they almost immediately stop representing us. So how are we ever going to get them to pass legislation to limit themselves
Exactly. Without
when they're
first
not
getting everyone out.
representing us? Yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah.
feel like there should be a mechanism of direct vote for the people, and it should have a very
Yeah.
high 90%, 95%. I don't know exactly what, but I feel like there's certain things that are important enough. It should just go directly to the people. And if it has, total support pretty much, obviously you're never going to get 100, but
Yeah.
I would say at least 80%, then boom, it's done. And I think something like term limits would have 80%.
Yeah. Yeah. Two
It would,
reasons that I like term limits is just
yeah,
because one, it's very hard to get an incumbent out because people don't like change. So that's the main reason why they keep voting for the same person. It's just because they don't like the change.
yep.
And then I forgot the second point.
At least I'm not the only one.
I
What
think
is,
it was something like, and then we just get new people in, just get new ideas in and stuff.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I kind of, um, one of the arguments for that, I think that our Congress members should be paid well because
Mm-hmm.
you do open the door to bribery and stuff when you pay them too little. Because we
Yeah.
used to pay Congress members pretty much nothing. It was literally a service that you were doing for your country, not the other way around. Not a prize you're winning like it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't, I'm not saying that we should go back to paying them dirt because then why wouldn't they take the bribes, right? They might as
Yeah.
well get paid for being there. But I, I'm pretty confident we need to get rid of the lifetime salaries at least.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason to keep that. I'm fine with keeping it for presidents. Fine, it's very few people overall, and they certainly give a lot by being president.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but once you're not working for the people anymore, why are we still paying you?
Yeah.
I'm fine with giving them, a nice benefits package so that no matter what they did before and no matter what they do after, they'll still have a great retirement. They still have access to good health care and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the actual paycheck should stop the moment you leave office.
Yeah. I think a reason not for term limits would be that, like we said, there's like almost 500 people in Congress. So you're going to run through people pretty quick. So uh, I think it should probably be something like they can do like 2 terms, but then they have to take 2 or 3 off, and then they can at least go up for re-election again, something like that. But I don't know. I'm kind
You
of
could do
like in
that.
favor for the conversation about term limits, but I'm not sure where I'm at on them.
You could do that, but you could all, I mean, even with term limits, they don't, if you max out in the House, you would still be able to run for the Senate,
Yeah, yeah.
at least under, the general idea. Obviously, we could block that too, but I don't see why we would.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's one option. The other option is it could be, once you max out, you can still be elected, but you need to win in a landslide, let's say.
Okay.
80% or whatever number. The bar needs to be a lot higher.
Yeah, yeah. And then I think to help out with that, like you said, some things should go to the people. I don't know if it should be like so the Senate or the House comes up with the bill, passes the House or Senate, goes to the other one, and before the president can sign it, like the people must vote on it. And if it doesn't win the people over, then it doesn't go to the president, it goes back to Congress. Or it's killed or however that really works. But
Interesting.
that might be a good idea. And not obviously not everything, but like bigger stuff. Like this big beautiful bill, that should have had more sway with the people. I can see that.
Yeah, yeah. I could. I definitely don't think it should be everything. I don't want us to be a
Mm-hmm.
democracy. We're not a democracy. We shouldn't be a democracy.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that there are certain things that you know we're never going to get our representatives to vote for, no
Yeah.
matter how honest they are. And therefore the people need to be able to override it somehow. But um, but I think you could also fix a lot of the problem without having to go to a vote of the people. You could fix a lot of the problem by requiring a single item bills. So it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily a page limit, but you can only do one thing per bill. Not 50 things, not 5 million things, one thing per bill. And
Yep.
the only exception to that would be the budget, because obviously, um, and even then, it should still probably be broken into sections. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to if you're going to cut it into, say, military, welfare, and when I say welfare, I mean healthcare, all of that, anything that's money going back to taxpayers, um, infrastructure, right? All those need
Yeah.
to be separate.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, we can't pass 6 million separate bills
Yeah.
for the whole budget. But I mean, everything's just so out of whack, especially since Obamacare. Before
Yep.
Obamacare, welfare uh, programs, so Medicaid, or I guess it was Medicare back then, um, food stamps, right, housing, Section 8, all of that stuff was something like 40%. I think it was 40% of the budget, maybe 50. Ever since Obamacare, welfare programs are like 70 some percent of the budget, over
Yep.
70%. The military is the next closest at 9%. We spend less than 1% on infrastructure, for example. You wonder why our infrastructure's crumbling.
Hmm. Interesting.
I mean, just looking at that chunk of money, now take 20, 30 million illegal immigrants out of that welfare system. And is every single one in the welfare system? No. But there is unquestionable, there's no question whatsoever that they are receiving taxpayer dollars through different mechanisms, generally multiple different mechanisms. A lot of the way, when they claim, oh, illegals aren't receiving benefits, a lot of a lot of the loopholes that they use is one person in the house who is a citizen is the one that receives the benefits. So it's
Ah.
technically a citizen, but all
Mm-hmm.
their dependents are illegals. So it's still illegals receiving the taxpayer dollars.
Yep.
And then also here in Washington, they don't ask you if you're a citizen, or maybe they
Oh
do
yeah.
ask you, but they don't follow up on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even if they were getting nothing, they're still getting health care. Because when they're here, they have no choice but to go to an American doctor, right? They're
Yep.
obviously not flying to Mexico because then they'd have to sneak back in.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing they can do is go to an American doctor. The only thing that leaves them able to do is to go to a hospital where they get charged a bill because a hospital has to give you treatment. No matter where you are in this country, a hospital has to treat you regardless of your ability to pay. If they're not paying, the taxpayer is. This
Mm-hmm.
really shouldn't be so complicated, but apparently it is.
Everything's
No matter
complicated.
what, yeah, no matter what, we're paying for their health care.
Mm-hmm. One way or the other. Yeah. Um.
It's really an ingenious design though, and that's why I think the number one reason behind Obamacare, because like I said, it now takes up over 70% of the whole budget. Therefore, if you're going to reduce the budget at all, you have to go after either health or welfare programs.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the only things where all the money's at. And there's a immense amount of not necessarily waste, but things the average taxpayer is not okay paying for
Yep.
and never agreed to pay for in the first place. Those can all go. But getting rid of those, I can't believe you're going after Medicare. I mean, just like they
Mm.
did with the beautiful bill. They cut off only single male, pretty much single male individuals that I guess it does include some females too, but very few,
Yeah.
who are able bodied, working age, not in school, so not in either public school or college, and not working at least 20 hours a week. 20 hours a week. And it's not even that, it's 80 hours a month, so you can work it however you want, but they literally cut off the absolute minimum, and that cuts 17 million people out, apparently. I don't think it's anywhere near that number, actually.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it's probably a lot bigger, but most of those are illegal aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Nonetheless, I don't think it's actually 17 million Americans. I think it's probably more like 10. But if those people aren't okay to not pay for, then nobody is. That's what it is. If single able-bodied men with no children, oh, that was the other thing that got you out of that, was having kids. If you have kids, you don't have to pay for your health care. If you're working
Yeah.
20 hours a week, you don't have to pay for your health care. If you're going to school, you don't have to pay for your health care. But and if you're disabled, you don't have to pay for your health care.
Mm-hmm.
But if none of those things are true, and you're just an able-bodied male that is just doing nothing for whatever reason, you don't just get a free ride on the taxpayer's dime.
Yeah.
I mean, there's literally, if we can't cut them off, we can't cut anybody off.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But what Democrats and what liberals do not seem to be able to get through their heads, and I mean the voters, I understand, what the party's doing, but the voters do not seem to get through their heads is we don't have the money. So regardless if you think people should be covered, we can't afford to cover them. It's not about
Yeah.
taxing rich people more. It's not about
Mm-hmm.
anything else. We can't afford it. Even if we took 100% of rich people's money, it would fund the government for less than a day.
Yeah.
It's not enough. You can tax them 50% more. It's not enough. We can't afford it. It's not possible. So the only thing that can happen is either care suffers dramatically, which it already has suffered a
Yeah.
lot, or we cut some people off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I
And
think they
frankly,
don't get that.
And frankly, there should be, very few people that are entitled to anything like that. I don't want no social programs,
Yeah.
but the average American can certainly, pay their own way. And
Yes.
the other thing is too, aside from aside from that is that's the way I think you take the argument to them, because we're literally spending $2 trillion of debt every single year. It was only 1 trillion under Trump and under Obama and under Bush. Then it went up to 2 trillion under Biden. Then it went down a tiny bit, and now it's back up to almost $2 trillion a year. Hopefully, Trump's reduced that sum.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see here at the end of the year. Um, but that's every single year. We're spending $2 trillion more than we have. Your kids are the ones that have to pay that bill,
Yep.
not you, your kids. And so just because everything's been going fine doesn't mean it's always going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is, you have to pay for the healthcare one way or another. Yeah, we're putting it on credit right now, but eventually that bill comes due, and we're gonna pay for it. You don't think the banks are not gonna just magically pay for it,
Yeah.
or whoever else, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we get rid of all of the social programs, and we don't even have to get rid of the social program. I don't know. We can keep the social programs and just get rid of all the regulation, and healthcare wouldn't cost so damn much.
Yep.
Where it wouldn't be nearly as much of a consideration as you're concerned that it is. I
Yeah.
understand why people are scared of being responsible for their own healthcare, especially looking at what it costs today. But just 10 years ago, before Obamacare went into effect, it didn't cost literally half as much as it does today.
Yep.
All of that is because of Obamacare.
Yeah. We
If we
do
take away the
things.
regulations that were in place then, it would cost even less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do things like we subsidize drug prices for other countries. Like Ozempic's the biggest one. It's like pretty cheap in almost every other country, but in America we pay more so they can pay less.
Yep, because their governments require it.
I want to say it's like probably $20 in other countries, and in America I think it's close to $1,000.
Actually, it's. I don't even think it's because their governments require it. It's because they can't afford it,
Mm-hmm.
and so they give it to that market cheaper. Because our government forces doctors and health insurers to pay up for the medicine.
Yep. Yeah, like you said, I want there to be some sort of like safety net because I've seen how things can just go wrong in your life and you're gonna need it at some point. And but that's who I want it to be for. Is for the people who are just completely down on their luck and need a little boost just to get going. But then once they get going and things are good again, we need to
It can't
cut
be
that.
permanent. Yeah, it can't be permanent.
Mm-hmm. And for people that are just disabled and have a much harder time and obviously can't like work and stuff, they still need to live a good life. And I would be okay with paying a little bit of taxes for that. But it's,
Even then, though, if unless it's a real disability that you physically cannot work, then it
mm-hmm.
should only be a little bit of a subsidy. If
Yeah.
it's a
Mm-hmm.
disability, like let's say you have a prosthetic leg, right?
Yeah.
Today, um, that would get you full disability. I'm pretty
Hmm.
sure. Might be wrong about that specifically, but I'm pretty sure it would get you full disability. But even if that's not true, there are many things that don't stop people from working that get them full disability. And that shouldn't happen. If you can work, even in an altered scenario, you have to work to live.
Yeah.
And anybody that's not working to live is living off of the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I don't understand what goes on in the leftist head where that's okay, but me not wanting to pay for it is somehow not okay.
Yeah.
Why am I more of an asshole for not wanting to pay for it than they are for taking my money when they could be making their own?
Mm-hmm.
I just
Yeah.
don't get it.
I've said it to him so many times, but it's like, and they want to come after Christians and stuff. It's like, oh, love thy neighbor and all this other stuff. But it's like you're not supposed to like give away money you don't have. You're not supposed to put yourself in a position that is makes you worse off to help someone. Now, if you do that out of the good of your heart, then that's a good thing. But you shouldn't be doing that because you don't need to hurt yourself to help someone else all the time.
Yeah, the
So we,
Bible
yeah,
tells you God, your family, then other people.
mm-hmm. We don't
And
need
just
to be
love
going
them.
into debt to help people. I get that your heart's there, and these people, some of them, yes, they do need help, and like we've said here, some don't at all. But we have to have a real discussion about, especially if we're overspending, about what we're doing here.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally like, you know, a lot of people have that family member, whether it's a brother or a sister or a parent sometimes, that just doesn't have their crap together and
Mm-hmm.
are always asking you for money. And some people, you know, always give into that. Some people don't, but it's like literally mortgaging your house and maxing out every credit card that you can get a hold of in order to pay for them, even though they don't need, there's nothing stopping them from taking care of themselves.
Exactly.
That's literally what we're doing right now.
Yep.
And I don't understand what is morally inconsistent. Actually, it's not morally inconsistent. I don't understand, though, what goes on in a leftist head where, me being concerned about that and wanting to deal with it before it destroys us all, it at least from my worldview, you're the only one being morally inconsistent if you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, don't worry about it," you know,
Yep.
drive it over the cliff. Who cares? Well, I care
Yeah.
because I have kids that are going to be living in my place, in many years, long
Yeah.
past when I'm gone, and they're going to have kids. And even if I didn't have kids, I care about this country existing in the future. I don't know. I just don't see how you
Mm-hmm.
can not see that aspect of it.
Yeah.
I'm I'm very empathetic to human beings. A lot more empathetic than any leftist I've ever talked to would give me credit for. I you know, I m- my fiance and I fight about it all the time because I I do more than I probably should for some people,
Mm-hmm.
knowing they don't deserve it.
Yeah.
But sorry, that doesn't mean that, I'm going to jeopardize my family to do it.
Exactly. If you have the ability to do it, then you have every right to do it. But like you said, if you're like maxing out credit cards, pulling out second mortgages to help someone, then you're enabling someone's behavior by hurting yourself. So
Yeah,
it's
I
kind
mean,
of like the snake eating its
doing
own
that
tail.
almost because you're destroying the people you're actually responsible for, which includes yourself, over just doing the right thing, making the person take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like when I was an EMT, they told us like you're the most important. Like, yeah, you're supposed to be here to save people's lives, but obviously don't run into a burning building that you can tell is about to collapse to save that one last person. It, it, there's some things you'll have to live with, but you come
Yeah.
first. You have a family too. You have people that depend on you, people that maybe not depend on you, but you have friends that like to see you and talk to you. So,
Well, even if you take that one step farther, you have people that need to be saved tomorrow too.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so even if you want to go past friends and family, you know, you're also taking yourself away from all the people you would have helped afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing. We're putting ourselves in a position where we won't be able to help people later on down the road. If this keeps continuing the way it will, then
Exactly.
everyone's going to get cut off, not just some people that probably definitely need to be cut off, you know?
Exactly. Glad you got there because I was trying to get there, but I just couldn't get there myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was trying to get at. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's incredible to me that I don't know that you just wouldn't pay attention to that side of it. Like I understand having the empathy for people is what I'm
Yeah.
getting at. I
Mm-hmm.
understand that very much more, like I said, than I have ever gotten credit for from a leftist. But if you let that destroy you, you're kind of a bad person. Like,
Mm-hmm.
eh, matter of fact, I was just reading it. What do they call it? Toxic empathy, right?
Yeah, I just saw something about that today. I hadn't read anything about it yet, but
A lot of leftists don't like that because obviously it's applied to them often because of illegals and because of things like welfare programs. It's it it's an indulgence and it's, for lack of a better word, a sin, just like anything else can be.
mm-hmm.
Enabling somebody and wanting to give more than you have, to the point where you're not just giving your money either. You're giving away other people's money
Yeah.
on their behalf for your empathy.
Yep.
I had if I may, I got a quick example here.
Okay.
I had a lady that I was talking to on Twitter recently, and we were talking about um, the Department of Education and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people being fired. And obviously, I think that's a good thing. Schools have been on a steady decline since 1979 when the Department of Education took over, as far as graduation rates, um, literacy rates, every metric you can think of has been on a decline since the federal government took over education, except cost. Cost has skyrocketed, while every other metric has gone down.
Interesting.
And this person was very upset because I had said that, and ultimately got mad at me for not caring about special needs kids because the Department of Education funds the special needs programs. And aside from the fact that I had made no argument that the things the Department of Education should do should be taken over by somebody, I
Mm-hmm.
believe they should be taken over by the states, of course.
Yeah.
But just because I want the Department of Education closed doesn't mean I want all of that gone. But anyway, aside from that, it's I should have pulled up the conversation here, but
Yeah.
sorry, I had to mute myself again. Um,
Mm-hmm.
anyway, where was I at?
Taking away things
Oh,
from the
yeah.
Department of Education.
Aside from not wanting to take those things away, I told her, I'm like, because she had a kid. I don't know if I said she had a kid that was special needs
Mm-hmm.
herself, so that's why she was so upset about me making that argument, assuming that that would be taken away. And it's like I can empathize with that concern, but you're letting every other kid in America suffer on behalf of your kid. And obviously, not just her kid, but other special kids' needs too. But my point was, the schools have done nothing but gone downhill since. And that affects all kids, special needs or not. And she just couldn't see that. To her, it was, she was being empathetic to special needs kids, and I wasn't, and that's all it was.
Yep.
It took way longer to explain than it could
Hmm.
have had to.
Yeah, I had some lady come across my feed that was a teacher, and she was talking about how teachers aren't paid enough, and um, said some other things. But so then I commented on it and said that, well, if you look at how education's been going for the past 40 to 50 years and how it's declined, then you can kind of understand why teachers aren't being paid more. And I actually didn't get many comments on that, but I think the last I checked, it was over 300 likes. I had one person post a statistic that said, like, America's the most educated country in the world. So I think the Department of Education is doing great. And all it is a statistic of amount of people that have graduated high school and amount of people that have graduated college, which has nothing to do with how educated they are.
And how
They just
effective they
passed it. Yeah. I know
are.
lots of people that passed high school and probably couldn't do it again at this point. So,
Yeah, no kidding. Teachers especially, and the argument about teachers, it's exactly the same sort of thing. You know,
mm-hmm.
the job that teachers do is a very important job, and it is a job that you have the opportunity to be a hero at. But that doesn't,
Yeah.
the fact that you're a teacher doesn't automatically make you a hero. Aside from
Mm-hmm.
that, teachers are paid pretty well in the vast majority of the country.
Yeah. Yeah. The average salary is kind of low, but it's still right around middle class level. And most teachers are women who are married to men who also probably at least make middle class. So together they're making pretty good money.
Well, and when you factor in that they only work 180 days a year, which is not a whole lot less than the average worker, to be
Mm-hmm.
fair.
Yeah.
A lot, not quite as much as you'd think. But once you add in weekends and all that stuff,
Yeah.
I forget what the exact number is, but it's not that it's half as much as everybody else,
Yeah.
but it is a significant amount less than everybody else. They only work generally 6 or 7 hours a day, and their salary doesn't include their benefits package,
Mm-hmm.
which is better than just about anything you can get in the private sector anywhere,
Yeah.
no matter what you're making. And so when you factor all that stuff in, particularly the amount of time that the amount of hours they're actually working, their salaries are actually much higher than what they're listed too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But and I'm perfectly fine with paying teachers well. I have no
Mm-hmm.
problem paying teachers well. I'm not
Yeah.
arguing that they should be paid, that they're paid too much or anything. My only point is, teachers in Washington, I think, average like 80 some $1,000s a year.
Yeah.
They do well, which that's not a ton of money in Seattle, but the ones in Seattle generally make over 6 figures too.
Yeah.
But um, but they are paid very well in this state. We spend more in this state per pupil in the classroom than all but Massachusetts, I think.
Hmm.
Um, it might be we might be more like 47th or something, but I think it's just Massachusetts as of last year. But anyway, um, so the the pay isn't nearly as inadequate as people claim. And just because you're being paid poorly doesn't mean you deserve to be paid better either. There has to be, there has to be some metric that we use to determine how good you're doing. And the fact that
Exactly.
all of those metrics have gone down, it might not be a reflection on just teachers, because I definitely believe the Department of Education and stuff has a lot to do with it. Um, But what other metric are we supposed to use besides that? So
Yeah.
there's no question that we need to be at least asking the question what, you know, what we should be paying.
Mm-hmm.
But to be fair, a lot of it's not taken from the teachers either. A lot of it's the cost going up has very little to do with the teacher's salary. If you take so in Washington, I said we're I believe 49th or I guess second most expensive um, out of the country, and it's I want to say $18,000 per kid, something pretty close to that. 10 kids, that's 180 grand. There's generally 25 to 30 kids in a classroom. So just with 10 kids, you could pay that teacher, a little less than 180 grand. Because by the time it actually
Mm-hmm.
goes to your salary, of course, it'd be a little less. And that still leaves 20 kids, which would be, whatever that is, almost $400,000, 350. You could still have that much left over for everything else necessary. And yet, we don't even give them that much.
Yeah.
Therefore, that money, the point is, therefore, that money is going to all of these other things other than teachers when really the teacher is the only part we care about.
Mm-hmm.
You need a principal, you need a PE teacher, probably, things like that, but you don't need 50 administrators.
Yeah. I have this kind of idea. So I just looked up. Grok says as of 2022, New York spends the most, and then it's DC, New Jersey, Vermont, and Connecticut.
Wow, we dropped way down then.
And New York spends $30,282 per pupil
Cow.
annually.
That's had to have gone up a lot recently then.
Yeah. So I have this idea that's like, what if we made more like kind of like private schools or almost like homeschools where a teacher can, or basically more like a teacher can start her own business making her own school or group of teachers. And then since we
Be like a
pay
co-op.
30,000 per pupil or whatever, obviously by the time you get to Connecticut, it's 24,000 per pupil. Um, what if you just paid that not directly to the teacher? Maybe you take like 10 or 12,000 of that, and a teacher can have like 12 to 15 students because that's a pretty good size for a class, and that's her salary is the 10 to 12,000. Then there's extra for the costs of maintaining her school and the stuff that you need for supplies to run a school and everything. Then she's making like $150,000 a year, so it wouldn't even have to be that much. And then you have more one-on-one with students and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, basically what you're describing is a co-op, but
Yeah.
rather than one of the parents or some of the parents doing it, hiring a teacher. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's an excellent idea, and I have no reason why we wouldn't do it. Other than that's the whole point of school vouchers. That's the idea of school vouchers. You would be
Mm-hmm.
able to spend it how you see fit, and I'm certainly much more in favor of that than what we currently have.
Yeah.
Um, but there, I, I can't even tell you why. I was gonna make the Democrats' argument for this, but it's not even an argument. Like, there's no reason not to want. They claim that the schools will get worse, but that's just simply the opposite of the truth. And we have all of history and the entire world as evidence as why that's not true.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say all of history, but or all of the world rather. But
Yeah.
we know the capitalist system works, and so taking your idea, whether we use it with vouchers or taking vouchers themselves, and whether we use it with your idea or we use it, people give it to private school or whatever it is, it's going to lead to more options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or we just reduce taxes and then people themselves can pay teachers, so that way that the teacher's job is reflected by how much. If a bad teacher comes along, then they will parents will pull their kids out of that teacher and then for quit paying her, and she'll make less money, but then we can still have some money set aside to help smaller schools and poorer areas, obviously, and stuff like that, to help them to be able to still fund it.
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean, it could be with vouchers, it could be the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
which is, um, if if you want to opt for it, you can, like you're saying, or if an area doesn't have the available teachers or whatever, we can continue to fund the public school there too.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
that
not
too.
that it's not that we have to have no public schools, like you're saying.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
it's the same thing with healthcare. It's not that we have to have no healthcare, but we know, and of course, this is part of believing as a conservative, but also just fact from what we've learned from our country existing. The more options you have, the more affordable it gets, and the better education you're going to get for all the kids. That's just the way a market works.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not even talking about, we're not even talking about not paying the taxes so you can pay for it yourself. We're talking about using the system exactly how it is, except we're making schools compete. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was a good point. Having them compete to make sure we get the best teachers.
Yeah. Yeah, and if it were me, I would do exactly what you're talking about. I would do something like that. Because not only do you have more control over who is in your kid's class, because that can make a huge difference on how much your kid learns, even if they're in a good school, even if they have a good teacher. Too many rowdy kids or a kid that singles your kid out and picks on them or anything like that can drastically affect not only their schooling, but their overall happiness day to day. But you also get to control the amount of hours that they're actually spending on education a day. It'll certainly be less than 6 if they have,
Mm-hmm.
if they're sharing one teacher with 10 kids. And you have direct say, you have 1 out of 10 say over
Yeah.
that teacher
Mm-hmm.
instead of 1 out of 500 or whatever it is. I mean, there's literally every single metric. It's better.
Yeah. Yeah. And in my idea, we still could have public schools because I feel like in like Los Angeles and New York City, these bigger places, it's still maybe easier to do it that way than have a bunch of little ones. But for the rural parts, like where I live, I think it could be a better system.
Honestly, I think that idea would work even better in the big cities and be
Hmm.
harder, uh, at least in some rural areas. It depends
Yeah.
on how spaced out you are.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't see it being a particular. But in the cities, because you now have a much denser concentration of people, it, that's going to lead to more options and more options and more options is always better. I mean, well,
Yeah.
it should be always better as long as you're being wise with how you're spending it. It's better. But yeah, I mean, it even if we just took a chunk from the public schools, enough to allow people that wanted vouchers to take them, it would still be 1,000 times better for the public schools too.
Mm-hmm. So it says, Croc says that Oklahoma is actually the second most, has the second most amount of homeschooled children, only second to Alaska. But it's still
But
only around 8%. But it says Oklahoma doesn't require anyone to report if their child is homeschooled or not. So that's only 8% of people have reported that.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, we definitely have to report it here. Um,
Yeah, I
but
remember you talking about that.
I guarantee that number would be a lot higher if it wasn't so difficult to homeschool currently.
Yeah. I kind of like homeschooling, and a lot of the things I talk about, I would like to see them happen. But the thing is, I'm not going to force it on anybody. That's not my ideology. I'm just saying I would like doors to be open for people who want to do that so they can.
Yeah, even if even if you spent the exact same amount on public schools,
Mm-hmm.
even just doing that alone is better than nothing.
Yeah.
And while, in a sense, that's what we have now, we really don't, because it is so, the amount of hurdles, and I don't know if it's the exact same in Oklahoma. It's probably not exactly the same, but at least in this state, the amount of hurdles that you have to jump through to be able to homeschool your kid, and um, the cost because of that is extremely limiting. So even just removing those barriers without taking any money from the public schools, it would still lead to better public schools, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you
Not
said on your podcast where you were talking about that type of stuff that you're almost forced to put your kids in public school, or is it just school in general? Like,
your kid must be attending school. So
okay,
um, if you can afford, on top of the taxes you pay and the levies that we pay on property and all of that, if you can afford to send your kid to private school or to either pay to homeschool them or do it yourself, um, then that will opt you out of it. But there's a bunch of reporting requirements. And this was all done mostly under the justification of, well, we got to protect kids because schools are the third parent that, uh, who else is going to know if a kid's being abused or whatever.
yeah,
And again, it's a great, that's a great thing to be concerned about, but that doesn't justify, putting up all these roadblocks too.
mm-hmm, yeah,
It it's just another example of the empathy leading to no option.
yeah, yeah, and that's not what our founding fathers believed in. Um, they believed in self governance and making choices for yourself.
You would think in a sense, you would think it would just be natural to want to do that.
Yeah,
It's almost amazing that it's not.
yeah. I think it has
If you
something to
look,
do with these people. They themselves know that they can't control themselves, probably because they've either never tried or never built any kind of discipline in their life. So they think that's the way everyone is.
that's a great point. I've never thought of it that way. I think you're probably exactly right. I mean, there's no doubt that there's a there's some patterns, let's say, to people that tend to be that kind of uh, overly, well, at least seemingly overly empathetic to these situations, to people that tend to want government to make the decisions for them.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely some patterns there, and I think that would line up exactly with those patterns, where they either instinctively or consciously recognize, well, I can't do it, therefore nobody else must be able to, or at least I don't want to have to.
Yeah,
I think that's part of it too, is just pure selfishness too. I don't want
yeah,
to have to deal with it, therefore.
yeah. That's definitely interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's I understand it a little bit. I understand it from that kind of selfish perspective, at least. Um, but I just having freedom comes with responsibility. But I don't understand why. For me, I'll take the responsibility and the freedom all day long, rather than giving up the responsibility
Yep.
for or
Mm-hmm.
giving up the freedom for the responsibility. Rather,
Yeah.
to me, I can't wrap my head around that.
I can't either. And just especially now, as much studying as I'm doing, I don't understand it at all. And like you said, it should be a natural thing to want to be as self reliant as possible. But for
Or just
them,
have choice,
mm-hmm,
be able to make your own choices.
yeah, you should want to be able to make choices, no matter what it is. But their whole ideology seems to be wrapped around, and I said this the other day, that I believe Republicans think like, what can I do for this country? And Democrats think like, what can I make other people do? And that just seems to be their whole ideology. Is just
I don't. I definitely. I think that there's some of that, but I don't know that it that they look at it that way.
yeah,
And I'm not saying that doesn't mean it's not that way, but I
mm-hmm,
certainly think that they look at it as, you know, eh, almost that it's not them, it's not their money, it's not interfering with what they can and can't do, because it's not something they're trying to do right now. It's,
yeah,
well, what can we make these rich people or these other people pay for to help these people that they want to help? Like I
mm-hmm,
said, it's kind of, like I said earlier, it's kind of like an addiction, like anything else. And so I don't think that they're necessarily looking at it as, well, what can I make you pay for? I think they're more looking at it as they think they're helping people, even though they're hurting themselves more.
yeah, yeah,
And I think it's also just lack of education. And what I mean by
mm-hmm,
that is not that Democrats are dumb people. That's not what I
yeah,
mean. I
mm-hmm,
mean lack of education on the specific things like policy and how they work, and why, you know, why this is better than this.
yeah, yeah. They kind of vote on feelings and stuff instead of actual what's right.
Yeah, I think that that's definitely fair to say. I think that Democrats by far vote much more emotionally, and conservatives by far vote much more um, principally.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like Democrats are much more likely to give up principles than a conservative would be.
And I bet you if you asked them, they'd probably say no. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I've had many conversations with liberals. I'm not sure I've ever asked that question directly, though. But
Yeah.
I bet if you asked just a random liberal, and you might have the option because you interview a lot more people
Mm-hmm.
on your show than I do, but um, I think that they just don't know what their principles are. They've never stopped to think about it, and
Yeah. Yeah.
so it they don't have to make that contradiction and question it. I really
Mm-hmm.
think that's, you know, part of what divides us is people that just haven't done that. It used to be a very standard thing because this country was a lot more religious, and that's part
Yeah.
of, obviously, Christianity is having principles and knowing what they are. Um, and I'm not saying that everybody in the country needs to be a Christian,
Yeah.
but because that Christianity has receded so much and politics mostly has taken its place, there's a lot of people I don't think it even occurs to, you know, whereas
Mm-hmm.
they were so much more exposed to it before, even if it was something that didn't occur to them directly, that it would basically have to occur to them at some point. But because there are huge areas of this country now that have very little religion at all, or any other ideology that would cause you to question what your principles are or know what they are.
Yeah.
I think that there's very large groups of voting people that just never even consider it. So they don't they don't necessarily know that they're operating more emotionally
Mm-hmm.
because they don't have the two things to compare to. I guess is what I'm
Exactly.
trying to get at.
Yeah. And I think that kind of brings us back to where we started with the amount of people that seem to be jumping bandwagons over this Epstein thing and over a lot of things, like the Iran thing, which I had a big problem with at first, but I never jumped bandwagons over it. And so it's getting too much of the emotions involved. And that was my problem with that was I became very emotionally reactive to it instead of thinking about it longer and what it actually means. That takes a play into it.
Right. I think that the I was trying to avoid using the word tribalism, but I can't think of another one.
Yeah.
The tribalism plays a part. The competition of it
Yeah.
plays a little bit of a part too. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I don't like the parties, is because of the tribalism. Uh, it just gets in the way. And that's what a reason why I think that Democrats are more likely to just fold on any principles that they do have if they may not be aware of them, uh, because they can't leave their party. Uh, you cannot admit that Trump did something right. You cannot admit that he did something good, because if you do, now you'll be ostracized. So,
Yeah, and in a sharp way too. Not just
mm-hmm.
ostracized from your political party, but sometimes your family,
Yep.
your community, everything. Yeah, it's definitely I kind of like the fact that I live in a deep blue state and
Yeah.
there's a lot more Democrats around me than Republicans because it gives me an insight that I wouldn't otherwise have
Yeah.
sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And to kind of understand, you know, I mean, obviously I have lots of family and stuff that are either liberal or vote Democrat. Um, my mom, for example, I hope she doesn't mind me saying this,
Mm-hmm.
but she's voted Democrat more in her life than not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know for sure. To be fair, I don't ask her what she votes or anything. We talk about it every now and then. She doesn't like discussing politics with me because she doesn't like politics.
Yeah.
But um, but anyway, I pretty sure she's voted Democrat pretty much her whole life.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom's a pretty conservative person.
Hmm.
She's never, for one, she doesn't like politics, so she doesn't usually get more than just the CNN level, you know,
Yeah.
entry into it. Um, it amazes me sometimes the stuff that she asks about. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
the I just don't think she thinks about it. I just um, she doesn't like politics already as it is. She only gets the cursory amount because of that. So I think it's something she just kind of naturally mentally shies away from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that makes it a lot easier to just believe what the politicians are saying. I think that's definitely a big part of this.
Yeah.
But and to do the things we've been talking about, you know, to go with what sounds good rather than questioning it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Yeah, I listened
Sorry,
to
mom.
your episode with your when you talked to your mom, and that was a good one.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. What's funny, I've recorded a lot of conversations with her. I've only
Hmm.
posted the one, I think. Um, and I didn't tell her I was recording that. I asked her if she would do the show, and she said yes. Um, but the first time we had it scheduled, it didn't work out, and so
Hmm.
I decided that the next time she called, I was just going to record it and
Yeah.
then ask her to upload it afterwards because
Yeah.
I kind of was subconsciously avoiding it because
Yeah.
she doesn't like talking politics, which
Hmm.
I don't think we really did on that episode, did we?
Um, I can't remember. So,
I don't think we talked too much about politics. But I because I am so, ingrained in that and she isn't. I like having those conversations with my mom
yeah,
on politics for that exact reason. For the same reason she hates it, I like having it because it's another view into a world that
exactly.
it it's really easy to, and this goes back to something we were talking about before too. It's really easy to think that the way you see things is the way everybody sees things.
Hmm. Yes.
And I
That.
think we all do it to varying degrees on various topics. But
Hmm.
I wonder if that's what separates people wiser than us
Mm.
with with everybody else is how well they're able to see things from other people's perspective.
Yeah. And that was kind of like a point of this podcast, is I wanted to get other people's insights on things. Like especially like when I had Rory on, who is from Britain. It was cool to hear him talk, and he's more of a conservative Brit. So that was really cool to hear him talk about his story of how life is over there and the way people think about America and the way he feels about like our Constitution and stuff like that. And I think that helps everyone just really understand why someone might vote Democrat, someone might vote Republican, because 82 million people voted for Trump. I don't think that there was 82 million people who had the same exact reason to vote for him. Everyone had, there was definitely some crossovers and things, opinions people shared, but it wasn't all one thing. And everyone had their one issue that they definitely wanted to see. Just even talking between you and me, like my big thing is like I love the tariffs that he's doing, and for you that's not as big of a thing. You're like I'll see it work out, you know.
Hopefully.
Uh, and me, I'm watching it as much as I can because I want it to work out because that's something that I want to see. So I think it's a very good thing to try and talk with people that you disagree with uh, when you can. Try not to be in an echo chamber and things like that.
Yeah, that of course it exacerbates it even farther as the echo chambers today.
Yes, like blue
But even
sky
just
and the way Twitter used to be.
I don't even like to think about it. Yeah, I mean, I had given up social media completely until Elon Musk bought X. That was what
Yep.
that was what brought me back online to some degree. And even then it's still too much. But um, you just couldn't, you couldn't be a conservative on these other platforms
Mm-hmm.
and actually get the benefit out of it that everybody else does. You know,
Yeah. 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 I had cut out all the social media too until Elon bought X or bought Twitter and made it X. Facebook was a big one for me because I just got tired of seeing people talk about how great their lives are, but then when I like see them in person and we have a conversation, I realize that like your life ain't that good. Um, but it was all the like maths that people put on and stuff like that. I just got way tired of seeing it, and I was like, I just don't care that much about keeping up with every single person I've met in my life. It's not even like I'm just keeping up with family or something. It's like you meet someone and you make a good friend at work or something, and they add you on Facebook, and then now you post life events and stuff on Facebook, and now even just a relatively close coworker sees everything that's going on in your life, which may or may not be a good or bad thing depending on who you are. But I'm just like, it's not for me.
Yeah, I mean, I like to use it as Facebook specifically. You know, it was a great tool when you could, especially for interests and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
all the things I was interested in went away.
Yep, got banned.
Firearms in particular,
Mm-hmm.
um, and uh, anything even remotely conservative gets censored to the point and siloed to the point that even though it is technically there, you don't see it. You can't find it. It's hard. It's easier to Google it than it is to find it on your own feed. You know. Um, so it's just as soon as that happened, it's almost useless in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. I never had too much family. I guess I did when I was a little bit younger. Um, but mostly,
Yeah.
you know, Facebook specifically, I was on there because it was a tool. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was the seeing people like put on the face mask and then like the complete opposite of people who like use it as a soapbox to complain about every bad thing that happens in their life so they can get a bunch of likes and I'm praying for you or I hope you're doing better, and then especially the worst of the worst, the people that post something that's a little whoa, ambiguous, um, and then refuse to answer anyone's comments. you know, like, well, what's going on? How can we help or something? And they just don't because they just wanted the attention all out.
right, yeah, it has a way of bringing out the worst in people, and
Mm-hmm.
it didn't start that way, but it rapidly progressed that way, in part because of people, but also having a lot to do with the way they started changing the algorithms and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's destined to happen anytime a company does what a lot of these companies have done, like Facebook, where they sell out all morality whatsoever and just go for. I mean, Facebook is responsible for psychologically addictive algorithms,
Oh
essentially.
yeah.
Everybody that uses them now, Facebook started that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I don't know if they literally are the first one to do it, but they're the first major one to do it, where they're treating these things like slot machines that they're allowed to put in front of kids.
Yep.
And when you sell out all morality like that, of course the platform's going to go to hell, I think.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, I think we got to the point and smashed it. I think it was a good episode.
Tends to happen.
Mm-hmm. Always a great guest. So
Thank you.
it was great having you on as always. This was part two. So if you've made it this far and you didn't listen to part one first, go back and listen to it. Um, I should have said that at the beginning, to remind people to watch the part one first, even though this isn't a full continuation. It wasn't like we just picked up where we left off. But
Yeah, I think they stand alone just fine.
yeah, it'll still be a part one and part two. But we did a lot of building up in part one, and then in this part two, we did a lot of dishing it out, hashing it out, and then we kind of just we kind of talked. So it's all good though.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being on. Jeez. Ah, check them out at JBU underscore show and militia underscore project on X. And you can find them on Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, right? JBU show.
Yeah, I haven't uploaded to YouTube in a little while, but Rumble and
Mm-hmm.
Spotify, anchor.fm/JBU is where all the links and all the episodes are. So
All
go
right.
there and you'll find it.
And for anyone who's made it this far, if you're still listening, we have more coming out together. We're collaborating on some stuff, so be looking out for that. And with that, I guess we'll end it here. So thanks for coming on, Chris, and thanks for anyone who listened.
Yep. Thanks for having me.